IFSC tour started in Europe, and then we went international to South Korea and the USA, and now, well, we're back in Europe. Brixen, Southern Tyrol, Northern Italy for the 5th round of the Boulder World Cup. My name is Matt Groom, and it's a pleasure to be joined by Quinn Mason from Team USA. Quinn, you're an athlete who unfortunately didn't make it through today, so I'm sorry about that, but thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I'm psyched to be here.
So we had a look at those boulders earlier on, and look, first of all, I wanted to chat about this stadium, because this is the first time that we've been here. That is a 35-meter long permanent comp wall. What was it like climbing on it yesterday?
It was awesome. This facility is pretty phenomenal. The gym is connected, so you walk straight out of warm-up, almost straight onto the wall, which is lovely from an athlete's perspective. No shuttles to deal with. And yeah, the angles are pretty amazing, and then with the crowd here, it's quite the experience for all the athletes, I think.
Absolutely. There's a sort of an amphitheatre-style setup for the crowd. It curves around the arena. And that wall, and this may just be me, but it seems like a very overhanging wall. There are so many sections that are steep on this thing.
Definitely. It is quite steep, but it's nice that we get some slabby angles as well. I'm not sure if we're going to see much of that in this women's semifinal. But yeah, those steep angles are very physical, and that seems to be the trend of most of the rounds we've seen.
There seems to be a trend, certainly this weekend, for sort of straightforward-ish in terms of how to read the route, but powerful boulders. And in fact, we're going to check out some of the highlights from the qualification round yesterday. So let's watch and see who made it through. The women's qualifiers in Brixen featured easy-to-read but powerful boulders spread across the 35-metre long permanent comp wall. Stashigeo managed to top all 5 boulders, flashing 3 of them, relishing the start of the climbs which suited her. Natalya Grossman is looking to add another goal to her collection, having won the last 3 comps. She had a perfect start. 5 tops, 5 flashes, but work to get into the semi-finals, seemingly miles ahead of the rest. In such a high-scoring round, Camila Moroney climbed all the women's qualified climb. Her failure on boulder 3 meant she was pushed down the order. Grossman still is looking to add another semi-finals place. Having Jessica Pilch made the short journey over from Austria and advanced 5 tops place. 5 flashes. She'll be looking to build on the momentum and try for her first finals miles ahead so far. Hannah Moyle has missed a few comps due to illness and scheduled rest times this year, but it seems like the lack of mat time hasn't affected Natalya Grossman. She finished looking to add another goal to her. Holly Tuthel has quickly become Britain's women's boulder to watch. Journey over. Well, that was the qualification. I'm not sure if the audio was a bit odd for you guys, but that was what was happening yesterday. And Quinn, I mean, watching that again, are there any of the names that have made it through that are a bit of a surprise here in today's semi-final?
Yeah, we have 7 new semi-finalists this season, one of them being Zhilu Lao from China, a 16-year-old who I guess surprised all of us yesterday, came from low in the qualification start list, and I believe topped all 5 boulders. So
yeah, she was on a different level. And with Zhilu, I was looking for stats on this lady. As you said, she's 16. There are no stats for her. She's almost completely unknown. And we're looking at our semi-finalist list there. Julia Kruder will be out first because she qualified in last position, and Natalya Grossman will be out last because she qualified in first. So those are the athletes in order there. So I'm looking at this list. Miho Nanaka, quite far down the order. Perhaps we would have expected her to be a bit higher up, but it's so difficult to tell at this stage, isn't it?
It is hard, and I know that she mentioned it felt quite warm to her yesterday, which it definitely was, so that could have been a bit of a factor. And qualification is always hard, so you never know where top athletes are going to end up.
Exactly, everything can flip, and conditions today might make a difference. So if you're watching this thinking, well, I won't bother watching until the top sort of 6 come on, I think that's a mistake, because I think we're going to see some action early on here in this semi-final.
Agreed.
And that is Julia Kruder out on stage. You would say 2017?
2017 was her last semi-final appearance, yeah. I'm sure she's stoked to be back on this stage.
She really is. She's one of those athletes who's just loves competing, and it's good to see her back. And this is our first boulder, women's one. Quite a powerful start, Quinn, but fairly easy to read, we think.
We think so, and she's making quick work of it so far, climbing with a lot of authority.
And this is this top section, quite straightforward, but it's a
press with that left shoulder, so she needs to extend that arm, palm down as she does so, and then reach that right hand up into the undercling.
There she goes, going for the press.
Yeah, locks that shoulder backwards, makes the match in control, and she starts off her competition well. A quick send.
Very quick flash by Julia.
Now look, at this point in competitions, I tend to get a bit worried because I often think, oh goodness, the route setters have undercooked this. However, there are a few things to consider, right? And one being the conditions. When we were in there earlier, it was humid in that room, wasn't it?
It was, definitely. It's warmer today than it was yesterday as well, so it'll be interesting to see if holds are getting worse throughout the round. Or, I mean, maybe even straight away, it's already looking quite sunny out there.
Yeah, you can see that light on the right-hand side. But an important thing that Quinn noticed, that the sun doesn't touch those mats, and that's important because they heat up quickly. It reflects back at you, and as long as the mats are in the shade, it makes things a bit easier. So let's look at this problem in more detail. Starting down at the bottom, Quinn, with that start circle and the lines indicating a limb, it looks awkward, that first position.
Yeah, that first box is a little bit small, and getting all 3 points onto that one volume, I think puts you pretty off balance to then actually jump out of that position to the zone hold.
Yeah, and the zone hold, worth noting, is the first hold pretty
Yes.
much on the wall, and it shows how difficult that first move is.
Yes, definitely. And cool to see Julia go to that with 2 hands, as well as the next move. Both quite dynamic and precise, but she owned them well. It'll be interesting to see if other athletes do the same beta and commit as much as she did right off the bat.
Yeah, commitment is key, I think, actually, because when you're coming into this, it's the first boulder in a semi-final. It's not actually too early in the morning here. It's 11 o'clock Central European time. But yeah, it's a big first move to make.
Yes, a good wake-up call.
Yeah, I had a double espresso. It worked for me, but I think these guys are a different level. That is our crowd. Look at it. Fantastic here in the stadium. And this is the first time that the Verticale gym has been used for a senior IFSC event. And I've got to be honest, I'm questioning why, because what a location.
Yeah, it's incredible. The whole town seems to be showing up, even for qualifiers yesterday, and we know athletes love a crowd behind them, so I'm sure they'll be loving this.
Yeah, that is our audience. This place reminds me of a bit like a mini Innsbruck.
Yes.
In terms of the rivers and the way the houses look.
It is pretty great. We are right next to the river here with the venue, so it's quite the lovely setup, and right next to the gym as well, which is nice.
Yeah, and that's where the athletes get to wait. We're just seeing, the reason we're having a pause here is because Julia got through her boulder so quickly, they have to count down the time. Now, any semi-final starts in a slow and sedate manner as one athlete comes out at a time, but by the end of this, we're going to have 4 climbing.
Semifinals is often the most action-packed round. It'll take a second for us to get a few athletes out here, but the rest of the boulders that we haven't gotten to see yet also look showy and fun, so we're going to have lots of exciting climbing to watch in just a few minutes here.
Yeah, if you're just joining us, we're in Brixen, South Tyrol, Northern Italy. My name is Matt Groom, and we're here with Quinn Mason, and we are watching the very start of the women's semi-final. That is the women's semi-finalists. 20 athletes have made it through from 2 qualifying groups. Holly Toothill climbing for Great Britain there in number 7th. She did well yesterday. Good to see Team GB up there, and there's a few more men in the list for the men's comp. Hannah Moyle, what a comeback she's having. We haven't seen that much of her.
No, we haven't. She's been on the scene for years and always been quite successful, but I guess this is maybe her 3rd event this season, and while close to the last finals that she was competing for, she didn't quite make them, so it'll be interesting to see her really fight for this one.
And Fanny Gibber is another athlete who I think struggles with consistency sometimes, but she's qualified in the top 2 for this, so a good comp for her. And she has that ability to bounce back from perhaps disappointing rounds.
Yes, definitely, and a very well-known name. Pretty clear that she has the ability to make a final. She's made quite a few in the past, so. Yeah, we actually have 9 previous finalists from this season in this semi-final, which is interesting.
Yeah, very experienced field, isn't
Very experienced field, yes.
Well, the next athlete out, Petra Klingler, is the definition of experience, because not only is this lady the 2016 Boulder World Champion, she's also the 2022 Ice Climbing World Champion. And that is an accolade that I cannot believe. I watched her win it in Saas-Fee. She's such an all-round athlete.
For sure. We can definitely, it'll be interesting to see how her experience plays out throughout this round.
So Petra is back in action on a semi-final. She hasn't made one for a while. She'll be looking forward to getting her teeth set into this.
Yes, her first semi-final of this season after a few close calls in the Salt Lake World Cups.
So Petra with that catch, that awkward first move, and it should get easier really from here. This jump looks far, but it's fairly straightforward. 2 hands matching, high right foot, and then she takes a moment to chalk up and compose before this press move.
Yeah, it's cool to see those 2 right jumps in a row. Similar movement, but definitely hard to flash both of those moves back to back. So this is a very impressive climb by Petra.
Yeah, she gets that left knee back in an Egyptian, faces the crowd, controls the top nicely, and quick work from Petra, even quicker than Julia Kruder there. I think she really got that done fast.
It'll be a time trial on this first boulder, maybe.
Extra points awarded. I
Yes.
think that should be a thing. I also think spinning dismounts should be awarded.
Yeah, I think anytime you can finish a boulder facing the crowd, it's automatic bonus points.
Exactly. I'm glad we're on the same wavelength here. They should listen to us for IFSC rules. We've got another 3.5 minutes, and we'll just be chatting about various things. And after this athlete, we will be having 2 at a time on the stage, so things will be getting much more crowded. So Quinn, Team USA, you guys rolled into town. What's the feeling within the team this weekend?
Lots of excitement. It's kind of the beginning to our pretty long stay in Europe for some of us, doing both the boulder and lead events. We're all here till Briançon, so it's, yeah, I mean, we're all super stoked to be here, enjoying all the good coffee and ice cream for sure. And the US team is decently big at this event, so it'll be fun to watch some of them in the semifinal later. We have Chloe Cosgoi and Natalya Grossman.
Yeah, Chloe Cosgoi had a fantastic.
Yes, yeah, I am biased. She is my roommate, so I'll try not to.
No, please don't. I prefer biasness. I will stay neutral. You can do whatever
I'm
you
allowed
want.
to have bias. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
This is we have 7 women in this semifinal who have made all the semifinals this season. Chloe actually being one of them, and this is her first Boulder World Cup season. Her first Boulder World Cup was this season as well, so it's really awesome to watch her make. This is now her 5th semifinal. Yeah.
And Natalya Grossman, I mean, she's in first position once again, 5 flashes in the qualifying round. Is she becoming a leader amongst the team, or is she quite reserved? Like, what's her sort of position? Because she is definitely the favorite currently going into most comps.
Yeah, I think that whenever you have an athlete really start to rise to the top on any given team, it just pushes the rest of men and women alike. You can just tell by the training sessions we get to have as a team, having her there and Brooke and all of our other really strong athletes, it just raises the level, raises the psych. So she's been definitely a big part in the rise of the US team, I would say.
Yeah, we'll be chatting a lot more about that lady later on. This is our scoreboard, and you can see the boxes, the yellow boxes. They get fully filled up if there's a top halfway for a zone, and you can see the tops, zones, and top attempts on the right-hand side. Now, we'll be keeping an eye on the scoring for you, and the scoreboard will be flashed up every now and again. But if you want immediate confirmation of what's going on, do download the IFSC app. It's free, and you can keep an eye on all the scores.
That's interesting to see those ones across the board already with our first 2 athletes. Not something you see all the time, but I mean, it's not really an indication of how the round will go yet. We've only seen 1 boulder and 2 athletes, and both very strong athletes, so hard to say what this boulder is really like, whether it will be a flash for a lot of the category or not.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. You just don't know at this stage. And also conditions. I mean, you was telling me those yellow holes, the friction on them is a bit different sometimes. And when you've got 20 athletes climbing on them, it's 24, 25 degrees right now. The first people out could have almost an advantage on that boulder.
Sometimes, yeah. You'll definitely see the athletes more, well, we do have brushers here, which is great, but the athletes brushing the chalk off those holds to keep them as fresh as possible, because when you have 20 people on the same boulder, that means 20 pairs of hands grabbing each hold, adding layers and layers of chalk. With the sun and the heat in the stadium, it can make holds feel worse over time.
So we'll see how things develop through the next couple of hours. Our crowd absolutely packed for a semi-final, which is great to see. The semi-final is one of my favorite rounds, actually.
And I'm sure we'll see it fill in more. We're just beginning here with climbers about to come out. We'll see our first climber on the second boulder here.
Yeah, they enter the sun and immediately duck back into the shade onto the wall. Our follow cam panning across the stadium above the audience's heads. So now we've got 2 athletes on. Julia Kruder will be on boulder number 2. Oceana McKenzie on the first boulder. There she is from Australia. Nice to see the Australians back competing.
Yeah, Oceana, this is her second event this season. She didn't make the semifinal in Meiringen, but had some pretty good climbing, and so I'm sure she's extra psyched to be here in the semifinal this weekend.
So we get a first look at Boulder 2. Nasty start with those volumes, not a lot.
A bit uncomfortable having a volume above your head there, pressing into it.
Then it gets a bit crimpy and awkward as you come around this corner. And Julia got the right hand on, tried to cross through with the left, couldn't quite make it. Oceana, her first attempt, I think, on this boulder. Very composed from her.
Taking a little more time on this boulder than our last two athletes. But
Yeah, of course, it's not a race. It's all about attempts to the top, and flashes will be important at this stage. And these athletes will know that because they would have seen the rotation of the athletes leaving the stage.
yes, you get to, as an athlete, you see when other athletes come back in from boulders, and it's pretty clear often when they've topped. And we see another top from Oceana on that first boulder.
I'm not sure she tried there. That was a very composed
That looked very
top.
casual. We got to see some angles from the side there with her chalking up, looking very composed.
Meanwhile, Julia Kruder, well, she cruised through boulder 1, but she's found a bit of a stumbling block here, hands on hips as she checks out this move. It's quite awkward, this cross.
Yeah, it is. You're also coming out of a bit of a corner there, somewhat hard to see, but those start volumes are kind of around the corner from the holds that she's reaching to towards the zone. And it's dynamic into a pretty shouldery position with two holds opposing, and you've got to almost try and pull those two holds apart in order to stay on the wall.
Yeah, elevator door style.
Yes,
That's how I was thinking.
exactly.
Like if you hold an elevator door open,
Yeah.
it's that movement. Elevator, lift, however you want to call it. Julia Kruder comes into the corner, and you can she's standing on a. I'm trying to look at that left foot.
It's, I believe, not great, if I remember from when we got to see the boulders earlier.
Yeah, very small. They can see it there being revealed. I thought for a moment she was standing in a bolt hole that was that small.
That would be impressive.
Would
It
be
looks like
impressive.
she's kind of trying to decide now if she can go slow or if that fast is really a forced method. I bet it's hard I mean, whenever there's more than one option, it's hard to pick one. So we saw a little bit of that decision process there from Julia.
Yeah, it is a fascinating decision process because, you know, when do you stop trying a method? You know, and it's difficult to pick that moment.
It is. I think that most of us athletes try to train that a lot in our practice and just committing to one method on the wall.
So let's see what she does now. Look at that knee underneath, balancing on the bottom of volume. She drops very low.
Trying that slower method again. It looks hard to come into that undercling there. I think that the intended beta of going faster seems that it might be the better option, which she tried on some of her earlier attempts. I wonder if she'll go back to trying that again.
By dropping down slowly like that, that bottom foothold has an angle to it, and it's going to be quite difficult to get her weight underneath because it's not flat, it's to the side.
Indeed, yeah, physical to just pull with that left arm on that undercling.
So Julia back on the walk, palming down again. Making easy work of the first moves, but watch this left foot. So she's in that slightly turned foothold.
You can see her trying to come around that corner now.
It's one of those boulders that's going to suit someone with a bit more power in the tank, I think, to be able to make that cross-through move.
Yeah. And it seems that nailing the speed of this move, if you come in with too much power, though, it'll be hard to hold that swing.
Absolutely. Well, Julia takes a moment. She's got a minute left on the clock, 4 minutes to complete each boulder. She has to have done it by the time that timer ticks down. Just blows on her hands, make sure they're nice and dry. You already hear the crowd getting excited in the background. We're early on in the semi-final, but it's good to see these new boulders. Her thumb in that bolt hold. You were saying the texture on those volumes, the bolt holds are quite big.
Yeah, the screw holes actually.
Sorry, screw holes,
It's interesting the difference. Screw holes in volumes like this, the way that they come into the volume, it creates a bit of a groove that you can actually crimp sometimes. You can see her putting her thumb in there, or we could earlier. Sometimes helpful, sometimes not. And nice stick by Julia on that super powerful shouldery move.
Yeah, and she will get the zone for that, so it's good last-minute action from her. Can she make a top? I don't think she's got time. Brings the knee up.
She was looking very controlled there. I wonder if more time, maybe we could have seen a top from her on that boulder.
I think she knew it. She looked like she was cruising near the top.
Yeah, we couldn't quite see the finish move from there, but it's just about one move more to the finish hold on that blue boulder.
So Miho Nanaka is back onto our stage. She's on women's 1. Petra Klingler, after a quick send of women's 1, moves on to women's 2. Now, this is a boulder I would expect Miho to get quite quickly. If I was a betting man, I'd be putting some money on this right now.
Yes.
Which probably means it's not going to happen. So let's see about Kirsta. Eyes up the pop. Easy work.
That was very graceful.
Some athletes just have an ability to turn a powerful move into something floaty, and she's one of those.
Yes, it's cool to see some people just hold that dyno hold without putting the foot out there. It's nice to see the smiles of all the women as they top out this first boulder.
It's good when you get a very hard first problem. I find it, you can see the athletes becoming a little bit unsettled.
Yes, yeah, I think everyone will appreciate a slightly easier boulder maybe for that first one. Bit of an ego boost. And sometimes with when you come out to a really hard first boulder, it can affect your mindset for the rest of the round. So hopefully all these athletes will stay happy throughout this round.
Yeah, we're going to see a range of emotions. You wait till Stasha gets on.
Oh, yeah. She's a fun competitor to watch.
She is, yeah. I like calm and composed, but every now and again I want to see a bit of screaming.
It's interesting to see the difference between the men and the women sometimes in the emotions shown. Wow, different method from Petra there. Looks like that will work, though.
Yeah, I had trouble holding the swing. Almost got it back, didn't quite.
Her facial expression there, I think, maybe told us that she thinks it's possible that way.
Let's see, she takes a second to breathe. 3 minutes 11 coming up on the clock. She's had 2 attempts so far. So this first move we thought might prove a bit awkward, but it seems to be okay.
Yeah, they're finding their way through it. It seems that just this corner coming around it is the awkward part. Oh, different method, but made it work very well.
Yeah, she caught that with the shoulder, then flips that right hand into the undercling crimp. Comes up, there's big crosses on the wall, they're just part of the design. They're not indicating anything.
These blue holds are the same that we saw on that first route for the women, so they're potentially familiar with how they feel already.
Well, Petra now is lined up for the top, pops out, locks it off, gets the heel in, matches. 2 minutes 20, a good send. This could be a high-scoring round here.
It could be. Always hard to call, but we've seen both boulders sent so far.
Brixen team, it's worth noting, had only a couple of months to pull this competition together. And I know from chatting to some of them that they've been getting holds over from Innsbruck, and there aren't as many holds the athletes don't know on this wall. A lot of them they would be familiar with. And that sets another challenge for the route setters, because how do you toy with the athletes if they know all the holds? It's a bit difficult.
Yes. Yeah, it's always an interesting challenge for an athlete when you show up to a competition and a hold line is making its debut at that event and you have no idea what you're jumping for. But it's still hard to tell. A hold like this that we see Petra going to, adding it to a volume like that completely changes the way it feels. So even if the athletes know that hold, they don't know how it's going to feel on that angle.
It's a great shot there. You can see the back, her fingers crimping the pinch.
Yes. Seems like a lot in that right hand.
Yeah, it does. Powerful move. And this is the top. Not too bad, but it is slopey, so it might get worse. And once you've got that heel locked in, it's a straightforward top for Petra. She'll be enjoying this. I know when she won the ice climbing World Championship, she wasn't really expecting it. And perhaps that's the mindset coming into this. She's just here to do her best, and let's see what happens. And she's currently leading the way. 2 tops. Yuya Kruder in second, Miho Nanaka third, but we are early on, so pay some attention to that leaderboard, but understand that it will change throughout the comp.
Next up, we'll be seeing Anon Matsufuji. This is her first IFSC season and her first semi-final.
Yeah, and that team Japan, I mean, such depth in it, isn't it?
Yes.
It seems like every comp there's someone new coming through.
It is, and she's only 18 years old, so a young star on the rise, maybe.
Yeah, and of course, we know the Olympic qualification events are coming. They're looming on the horizon, and it is going to be harder, especially with the big teams like Team Japan, where they have a lot of depth. Just trying to whittle it down and pick 2 is going to be hard work.
It is. We saw that at the last Olympic qualification as well, with the Japanese team as well as a few others.
Or Team USA as well. You guys have got depth in your squad.
Yes, we do.
How much of that is playing in your minds? I know we're a long way out from it, but do you start thinking about sort of long-term training plans?
Yeah, I think a lot of the athletes, especially in the U.S. team, are quite focused on the Olympic qualification. And it'll be interesting to see how many athletes we have competing in both the boulder and lead seasons this year in preparation for that Olympic qualification.
So Anon Matsufuji comes out onto the stage, her first boulder. There she is on the left. As Quinn said, 18. Experience doesn't really seem to be a factor with this Japanese team. I think they have so much experience around them, they seem to soak it all in.
I'm sure their national level events are intense enough too that makes up for a lack of experience on the international circuit.
That's such a good point. I'm imagining the Japanese nationals now. I bet that is a strong comp field.
I bet.
But we see the first athlete failing to flash that first boulder, I think. So perhaps not as easy as we thought it might be, which is always the way in these comps. Julia Kruder on boulder 3.
This boulder looks to be one of the more physical, which is saying a lot because all of these boulders look to be decently physical.
Yeah, the route setter said, oh, that's the physical one on women's 3, and I was just thinking, they all are, surely.
They're all almost overhanged. The fourth boulder that we haven't seen yet is going to be the least steep of all the boulders, but the first 3 are all on steep walls.
It's quite nice not to have a straight slab for once. I do enjoy watching a bit of slab action, but
some athletes will be thankful for that, and others will not be.
yes, I can imagine.
See
Well,
another top.
Anon gets it done second time. So if you flash a boulder, it means you do it the first go, no falling off, and it's awarded more points than if you do it the second or third go. So Anon, although doing it second go is good, we know that boulder is very flashable. That'll be what the other athletes will be looking to do on it.
Oceana sticking that first hard move of the second boulder. That zone hold is quite a fingery one.
Yeah, it looked desperate from the ground, but they seem to be making it fairly easy, that swap. And then this high feet, leading with the feet into that, more of a knee scrub.
bar. Yeah, not quite as good as the athletes seem to want it, but it helps maybe a bit.
Yeah, she's fighting for the positioning on it, which may not be the best idea, because sometimes it just doesn't work for you. She's really trying to get it in.
Yeah, she almost was getting a bit inverted there, her body quite horizontal, trying to fit that knee bar in. Julia finding a maybe more comfortable knee bar.
The top of this route is so cool. A big slap up underneath, and she needs to bump undercling into that right hand. Nasty little fall backwards there.
You can't even see the finish hold in that shot because it's so far away. You really got to get stood up in between those volumes before you can jump to it.
Yeah, very powerful top. Oceana just standing back. She tries to reread the sequence. Women's 4 you can see on the right-hand side, and no slab in the semi-final. That big grey section of wall is the slabby bit, really.
There are 2 slabby sections of the wall on either far side of this venue. They were used in the qualification yesterday, but so far not in this semi-final.
For me, one of the most impressive things about this wall is the fact that it is permanent, because once you guys go, you can come in and climb on the same wall, and I think that's always exciting.
Yeah,
As a climber, anyway.
Yes, it is. And there was already a European Cup at this wall earlier this season, so it's seen plenty of competition action already.
So Julia shaking out with a minute to go. She'll know how long and how many attempts she'll want on this boulder. But it's an indication of how physical it is, the fact she's resting for that long.
One of those boulders that you really limit your attempts and make sure they're high quality.
So comes into this press move and then flick round the corner.
Does that move really well.
Upgrades her feet and a big move up onto the sloper. And this is where she tried to get the knee bar. She couldn't quite find it. Will she this time? Moves the hand earlier.
Still kind of searching for that knee.
Yeah, not comfortable on it. Now heel hooking instead. What is that? Is that a height thing that she can't get the knee bar in, or is it more of a position?
Maybe more of a position. I think we saw Petra kind of bypassed that heel a bit. She just crossed to that crimp hold we saw Oceana going for. I think it maybe is almost a bit of a trap. It looked like her trying to get her knee in there, put her in an odd position going for that next hold.
Well, this is a replay of Anon's top. Got it on second go. A big swing, very different style from Miho Nanaka, who did it in a different way. And then the top pressing up. And you've got to be controlled. You can't just snatch for that top and jump down. She just checks with the judges to make sure the scorecard has been given.
Lots of big smiles on that finish hold. I really like it.
All right, Quinn, we're at the fun end of this competition, which is 4 athletes on stage, 4 boulders.
I think we maybe still only have 3, unfortunately, but we're almost there. We're going to probably get a lot of crowd noise for Camila. She's the home favorite here with Team Italy.
Yeah, she is the world champion bronze medalist. And if you can hear in the background, the crowd has stepped it up, as has the music. Camila Moroney, quick work of that first move.
Wow, a very showy way to do that second move as well, giving the crowd what they want.
Camila Moroney, fast work.
Maybe the fastest one yet, I'm not sure. That was a lot of authority from Camila.
She's looking hyped up, is Camila Moroney. She'll leave quickly.
Miho making this boulder look somewhat casual so far.
And that knee bar, we can see when it works, it is just a really easy way of just taking a bit of weight off the hands, but when it doesn't, it's so energy sapping trying to get it in. Quick top for Miho.
I believe another flash for her.
I think so, so that's 2 out of 2 for Miho Nanaka. Gets the nod from the judge, she leaves. Petra Klingler is left. She's currently sitting in second. She's got 2 tops as well, but oh no, because she's on boulder number 3, that's why,
yeah.
So she's down in second.
We started with 3 athletes, and we're already back down to just 1 on the wall, putting all of our attention towards Petra.
I think the camera guys are enjoying this. At least you can concentrate instead of having 4 athletes to flick between.
Yes.
And we get to watch Petra as well as she goes out onto this shouldery move. And I know she's had in the past a few issues with the shoulders, but not strapped up here today, so hopefully that's in the past.
Yeah, that sloper is quite a physical hold to put your heel and hands on.
And just twisting off as she lost the heel.
It was interesting to see that boulder up close. Those 2 hand holds are decently far apart, and there's really no feet. So at first glance, it's hard to tell exactly what you would want to do, but Petra was showing us a hand-heel match there on that sloper, and then going out to that next pinch hold.
Yeah, it's an interesting boulder because there's a lot to it, although it looks fairly straightforward. There's lots of little minute beta changes you can make.
That crowd is excited.
They are, aren't they? I like the flyby angle. It's great. So this was the move we're talking about. Watch that left hand. Do you think it's possible to sort of drop the feet and campus through this?
I am curious. I think we might see that from someone.
Well, Petra might be trying it now, and she does.
There. Sometimes the more powerful method is almost just easier. Keep it more straightforward.
But that left toe is slippery. She has got toe patch rubber on her shoes, and that's what it's designed for, those toe catches, but it's not a lot to go off on that black volume above her head.
Yeah, the theme of the beginning of this boulder is not having feet where you want them.
Yeah, I think so often a route setters, I mean, it's something you don't really think about, but just removing feet or making feet awkward can change the whole complexity of a boulder.
Definitely. Yeah, now we can see that top jump of this finished boulder. You really have to get set up in between those 2 black volumes and leap for that last hold.
Yeah, while slapping up with the left hand on that slanting volume. And there is a hold underneath it on the left, right where the corner of the volume is. Quickly you have to leave it behind. Now what method will she choose? She campus before, she does again, dropping down, and a little kick off, or no kick off with the feet, just a right to stop her swinging out.
Hard to control the swing on that sloping hold. She kind of had to use her feet to stop the momentum there. Definitely takes a lot of energy, and then you have to campus to the next hold.
Petra enjoying her moment in the semi-finals, asking the crowd to get behind her, which they do immediately. It's good to see Petra. She's very focused, and I think she's almost been kind of in her own head in recent competitions. She seems a little lighter this weekend, watching her walk around.
She looks like she's having fun. That's
yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Which is good to see. I think she climbs better when she does.
Yes, as both athletes do. It was interesting to see her head kind of throwing back on those moves on her last attempt. It's kind of an indication of how tired an athlete is. Sometimes by their body language, you can really tell she was fighting hard.
Well, the buzzer goes. Brushes. It's nice to see Brushes back. That's Camila Moroney. She made such a quick top of that Boulder 1. Has a point to prove here in her home comp. Miho Nanaka cruising through. And this is Petra campusing her way up, but not quite having the power. Perhaps just running out of a bit of energy there at the end. So, Boulder number 4. There it is on the right-hand side.
Our first look at it once Julia hops on.
Yeah, there's some things to talk about that boulder. A lot of dual techs going on.
Some sneaky dual tech surprises for sure.
Holly Toothill comes out. She'll need a quick climb of this and definitely needs to tick the top.
Her second semifinal in a row. Athletes are always excited when they can make a pattern out of good results. So exciting to see her here again after a good finish in Salt Lake. Top 10 finish for her in Salt Lake 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's nice to see a British woman coming through, because we had a bit of a sort of a hiatus perhaps when Shauna retired, where there wasn't anyone filling that hole. We of course had Molly, but she was more of an all-round climber, so it's nice to see Holly representing for the bouldering.
We got to see Julia on that fourth boulder for just a second there. It's a cryptic one, at least at first. I think if you can figure out the beta on it, it is supposedly not too bad, but I don't know. You can say that about any World Cup boulder, really.
Exactly. Anon makes the top. Nice from her.
Very controlled. Nice top from her. While she was one of the few not to flash the first boulder, she's one of the few to top the second boulder, so sometimes attempts aren't the most important thing. Just getting those top holds are what can really boost your score.
Yeah, and that's going to be all important here. I think it's going to be high scoring, so every mistake will be magnified.
Yes.
And that's Boulder 4. I mean, it is complex. Look at it.
I think maybe one of the most complex of this round. More holds and more volumes on this boulder than the rest. So that just means more options. And it's hard to tell now, but it'll become more apparent later on that some parts of these blue volumes have dual texture, slippery parts where you're supposed to stand with your feet.
Yeah, we'll be looking closer at that one as we come through. Oceana getting her heel up, using this heel method and doing well. And now this thuggy section makes the match well, and now she needs to go. Oh, she goes to the right first.
That red hold that she's grabbing is small and not very positive.
Oh, trying to mantle through. There is a hole down on the left, which she's not using, because we watched the root setters do it, and they bumped out left first and then went for the right undercling.
Top from Holly. Potentially not her first attempt based off the time.
I think it was 4. That's okay, yeah. She got it done, and that's the dual text hold. You can see it there better on the camera. The slightly lighter green section has no friction on it, and there's strips of texture within it, so you have to be so precise with your feet. The brushes doing the job. We've seen climbers brushing in recent times, especially after Corona because of the regulations. It's nice to see brushes back. I think it helps.
It's nice to be able to sit down and take a bit of a rest and look at the boulder while you have a brusher come and clean the holds for you.
Yeah, the brushes are heavy as well. But
Yes.
I genuinely find them heavy.
It is a bit physical
Yeah.
to scrub back and forth.
Especially up
with.
over your head. you
Yes,
know?
yeah.
And look at that foot pop there shows what we were talking about. Although I think there is texture on that first starting.
I don't think we've seen her try yet what we were told was the intended beta of this start. So it'll be interesting to see if she figures that method out or if she makes her method work here.
Well, you came up with a term that was new to me, which is the handcuff.
Yes.
way of doing this. So
Yes.
go on, talk about that.
We call a handcuff move when you have two holds close to each other and your hands are crossed over them, that your wrists are crossed, making it kind of feel like you're in handcuffs there. That's the intended method with those two holds that we saw her brushing in the corner of the screen there.
Yeah, it's not necessarily an obvious sequence through it. So it'll be interesting to see if she can get it. Often, I mean, look, we've seen athletes break the Vita so many times. It's not guaranteed that's the way they have to do it, but it's what was intended.
Often more than one method to do these boulders. We've already kind of seen that on these first three boulders as well. Some variation in the ways that the athletes have been choosing to do it.
Oceana looking controlled, but she's going to stick with her method, which is crimping the top of this right hand hold. It's meant to really be an undercling. 4 seconds. Oh, I think she was climbing herself into a dead end there a little bit.
I don't think we've seen an athlete get over to that left volume yet where there's a hold underneath. So we haven't quite been able to see where it is, but there is a hold under that left black volume.
So a new rotation. 4 more athletes out on the stage, running all the way across that wall. It's a long way.
It's a bit of a jog, a good warm-up maybe.
And the time is ticking, so yeah, good warm-up. That's a nice way of putting it, yeah.
I'm not sure they need a warm-up. It's definitely heating up outside here.
Yeah,
I wonder if the athletes are feeling it inside that tent.
it is hot. It's coming up to 11, just past 11:30 Central European time. It's blazing hot outside. Vita Luken, as she prepares for her lead season that's coming up.
Just came off second place, I believe, at the European Cup in Arco. So she's clearly in lead shape right now. And clearly in boulder shape being in this semi-final here with quite a stacked field.
So the holds we're talking about, this handcuff move, is that the 2 yellow holds that she's currently got her right hand on. You can cross there.
She really wants her left hand on the right hold and her right hand on the left hold. But, oh, I think she's found it here. With that, yeah, that's what we call the handcuff move. Wrist crossed like that.
Oh, the match on that right hand. That right hand's terrible. It's a horrible hold.
Yeah, she did a really good job of rocking over her feet there, and now she's potentially going to need to move her feet onto that volume, which is dual textured. So she's standing on the textured strips, doing a good job of navigating that.
She's looking for a high heel, which she'll get. Watch that left foot, though. It's right on the edge of that dual text. And moves off it gratefully, I would imagine.
I'm sure. And then the next 2 volume feet also have dual textured strips on them. She'll have to avoid those slippery parts.
Takes a second to chalk up. It's so physical, the legs squeezing in. It's a full body workout, this one.
Full body with the legs, and then the smallest holds we've seen in this semi-final round so far, so quite crimpy, fingery.
So she presses, interesting. I thought she was going to go into the side pull. Doesn't, but then not quite sorts her feet. I think it's a right foot higher up onto that.
Potentially, yeah. Hard to avoid those dual tech zones on the volumes. Maybe why she chose to stick with her feet on the yellow jibs there.
Camila Moroney, so powerful through women's 1. She's starting to unleash herself on women's 2. Doesn't even bother with the knee. Oh!
Interesting. We've seen a lot of the athletes go to that small hold on top of the volume with their left hand to then go to the finish with her right hand. We saw her grab it with her right. Looked like she maybe could have made it work, but then her hand just slipped off of it there. I'm sure she'll be hoping to make the final in front of her home crowd. She's already made 2 this season, so trying to make it a 3rd.
Yeah, Camila Moroney is really coming on in the women's scene after that World Championship bronze in Moscow. Going from strength to strength. Petra Klingler just taking a moment to assess this, and it's a long boulder. I was surprised how long she was on the wall for that first time.
A lot of moves and a lot of body position finding.
Oh, she's up again, crosses into the crimp. We're looking for this handcuff move. Oh, the knee, brilliant. You often hear when you're learning to climb, you shouldn't be using your knees, and that's true, but it does go sort of full circle. You get to this kind of level and anything goes. Why not use your knees?
Yeah.
Petra locking in the heel, looking better this time. That zone hold takes a second to chalk up. Far cleaner.
And you can see there, those yellow holds are really small. Not able to make that press work again. And we see Camila get the top of the second boulder.
Yeah, the crowd go crazy as she tops out with under a minute to go. Keeping her in the mix, and she needed that top. I think we're going to see so many tops that you've got to score in this round.
Tops will be important in this round. Seems like that third boulder will be an important one as well, as it looks to be maybe one of the harder ones.
Women's final will take place tonight. The men's semi-final and final tomorrow on Sunday.
It's fun to see the semi-finals and finals split for the men and women. It gives the setters a little bit more range to play on these walls. They just have more space to put up the boulders and a little bit more time to give that attention to detail. Petra looking at the clock there.
Yeah, she's good at keeping an eye on the time. She has got that experience, but she's running out of it.
Oh, a good fight from her there.
So, 2 tops and a zone. Time will tell.
And a big smile.
And a big smile. Petra Klingler waves goodbye. That's her semi-final round done. She'll now be nervously waiting to see if it's enough, and I mean, I'm not going to bother to try to call that, but I think that more tops might be needed to guarantee a place.
Yeah, she was finishing that round with 2 tops and 3 zones.
Miho watching her send that, and first to send that boulder?
Yes, I don't think we got to see that, unfortunately, in first top for sure. So now we've seen 3 out of the 4 boulders sent, and we've only seen 2 athletes on this 4th boulder so far, so I have a good feeling that we'll see it get done later on.
Yeah, remember the athletes are coming out in the opposite order from where they qualified, so these first athletes qualified lower down the order. Natalya Grossman and Fanny Gibber at the top, they'll come out last. Chloe Cosgoi, she had an amazing resting position in yesterday's qualification. She found a place where she was lying on a hold with no hands rest.
The commentator in the stadium was having a fun time talking about that one. She was telling me that she had a lot of fun thoughts while she was in that position, feeling maybe a little bit stupid. But it did work out. She did get a top on that boulder, so really it goes to show that any method that gets you to the top is the right method.
Absolutely, and it was a great moment. Well, there she is in action. Oh, went up and had to drop down. Now, she's using a quicker approach. Most people are going slower with the press.
Yeah, she tried to go a little bit faster. I think she's going to try and go slow now to the finish.
Much better from Chloe as she matches.
Second attempt for her.
That will have settled her nerves a little bit.
Yeah.
Holly makes the swing, locks off the left. 3 minutes on the clock, so lots of time. And then this is the little flick, and then a big move up to that sloper. Oceana.
Reaching around this corner, trying to get into that handcuff. Almost doing it there.
Now, I see her thinking here, because that is really where you want to be, but your body position is the wrong way. You need to go to the left.
It is hard. That right hold is quite bad, so it's hard to use it with the right hand. I think that using it with the left hand makes it better, but it is possible to potentially do it the way she was trying.
Yeah, she's looking to rotate around and turn
Yes.
it almost into a side pull. Anon, 2 minutes 30, she rests.
Looking for her 3rd top in this semifinal. Already did the first 2 boulders. Getting the zone here.
And watch his left hand, because it's seemingly not obvious. And this method looks good, but then I think you get to about this stage and you've got a bit of a problem. You've really got to power through with bad feet to stand up. She could flick that right hand into the undercling, which she might have just, no, hasn't done it yet. She's crimping it. And now she'll look to match and maybe flick.
Looking so composed on such a physical boulder. Wow, and coming back down to the zone.
Yeah, she's been here for a while and needs to unwind and come all the way out to the left. Oh, and then
I wish we got to see Miho a little bit more on this boulder. We only really got to see her in that replay going for the top. but it seems hard to navigate this middle section of the boulder.
Yeah, we watched the route setters do it in a very different way. A big physical move out left was how they were trying it. But
And then a very physical right-hand bump into that hold that we saw Anon crimping and pressing up into.
so Holly is back on into that awkward left foot, which is slightly angled. And it just throws you a little away from the wall as you make that move. Miho Nanaka is leading the way currently.
With 3 flashes, super impressive from her.
Holly will be looking to add her name to that finals. She'd love to make the step, hasn't made it yet into the finals.
Showed that she had the ability 2 weeks ago in Salt Lake.
Crosses through that knee, nicely pressed in. Oh, but you could see the effort from that shot, her leg shaking, face grimaced up.
You can hear her team behind her.
Oh,
Really trying to cheer her up the wall. It didn't quite work this time.
I just held my breath through that moment.
Yeah.
I was in sympathy.
That was a lot of effort from Holly.
So she leaves with 10 seconds to go. Oceana, I think, will call it a day as well. These athletes, of course, they don't need to climb all the way to the very end, and sometimes it is a tactical decision. If you know a boulder just isn't happening, there's no point wasting skin and energy on it.
Often on that last boulder, you'll see an athlete fighting towards the end, because there's no point in not leaving everything you have out there. There's Chloe finishing out that first boulder.
All right, so Miho Nanaka, she is our current leader. She jogs to the right-hand side. Camila Moroney is up there. Not as many flashes so far.
But still 2 tops on the first 2 boulders.
She's such a powerhouse of a climber, is Camila Moroney. Loves the physicality and big
And
swingy moves.
Really shows the emotion, which is super fun to watch from a spectator's side. Ayala just made her first final last weekend, 2 weeks ago in Salt Lake.
Yeah, she is one of my ones to watch, Ayala Karem from Israel. Her coach, Alex Kazanov, I was talking to him yesterday, so psyched whenever she makes it through.
Yeah, she's had a really, really great season so far with making that final and won a qualification round and has had some really good showings.
Vita Lucan, we were saying she's in lead fitness, but these are long boulders, powerful boulders, and it might actually end up suiting her.
Looking super strong here, using the right hand on that small hold and making it work to the finish.
I can't remember if that right wrist was taped before the comp or whether she's put it on. I don't remember seeing it, but usually, sometimes just a preventative measure, taping that up. So Miho breaks her flash streak. This is her second attempt on this.
Looking to keep her top streak for sure with a 4th top on this would be a great way to finish her semifinal.
Chalking up, you can see how bad the holds are. They are tiny, tiny, fingertips only. And remember the dual text on the feet. Slippery sections to those holds. Out into the press. Now Petra was almost snatching into that move. Miho far more controlled.
Very slow, very controlled, showing her strength here.
And his final hold, there's no texture on the top of it, but
that was a very smart, you can definitely see the experience there by Miho. We were told that that top hold that was on the volume is dual textured, and if you go too fast to it, you could slip off, but she ended up just not even needing it there.
see, could that be the fact that these holds aren't new to them, that they know, do you think? And she was like, look, I'm not going to risk a big throw to a slippery hold.
Potentially, for sure. It looked like she just got herself into a very stable position there, though, and was just able to keep the feet stemmed and reach to that. Well, seeing Camila try to double to that sloper, that would be a very impressive way to do that.
Our leaderboard on the right, we just watched Miho Nanaka, 4 tops out of 4. Anon in 2nd place, and Petra Klingler in 3rd at the moment. Remember, a lot of those athletes on the screen have yet to complete their rotation, so expect things to change, but it's worth keeping an eye on, seeing the front runners. Camila Moroney looks at the time.
Wow, trying to turn that move into somewhat of a coordination dyno there. I wonder if she'll keep trying that or try a slightly slower method.
Just ramps up the power even more. I mean, you got to drive the energy through that move, and
Yeah.
it's hard enough by itself.
Sometimes when the athletes are really powerful like Camila, it's hard to almost tone it down. It's crazy because she's definitely physically capable of doing that move in that way, but that's a very hard way to do it. So almost too strong for her own good, I would say.
That's a great way of putting it. I hadn't thought about that. Because, yeah, you must sometimes just need to go, look, I'll step away from the power method because it doesn't make sense.
It's hard to, I mean, it's great to use your own strength, but it's hard to know when to pull your strength out and when to just do it in the way that is potentially a little bit easier, but doesn't quite fit your style as well.
So let's see if she sticks with it. She does at the moment. I mean, I can see it is a coordination, but it's almost like she's just using the swing, isn't she? Just get that left hand up. But maybe now it's time to drop down, do it a bit more statically, perhaps. She's got the power. "20 seconds. He needs to change it up."
Not going to give another attempt on that.
So Camila is going to have to fight on the final boulder of this semi-final round. She'll need a top there to cement herself, certainly. Let's see a replay. This is Vita on the top. A nice snatch on the heel. It's easily finished for her. A big shout at the top. Ayala presses upwards, gets the foot in nicely.
Nice to see some celebrations on these finish holds.
And Miho, look at that, turning that drop knee.
Such a smart way to do that. And that yellow hold on top of that volume there is what we said was the dual texture hold that the setters had warned us about, but she ended up not using it at all.
Yeah, I did not spot that method when I was having a look at the boulders, almost chimneying up those holds.
We have Futaba out on the mats. She's made all the semifinals this season and 2 finals so far already, so she's definitely a contender.
Yeah, Futaba seemed to be sort of almost stepping into the gap left by Akio Noguchi, which is this consistency.
Yes.
You know, Akio was so consistent, and as is Futaba.
She's definitely had some great mentors, having both Miho and Akio on the Japanese team.
You can see the similarities in style to Miho Nanaka.
Yes.
With that jump. Up she comes, the easy top, as we know. Looking back at almost sort of confirmation of her climb. She gets it, and she quickly leaves back to the isolation area behind the wall. Her teammate.
Figuring out this handcuff situation. I think getting comfortable on squeezing those footholds is very important. We saw Petra use her leg really well, kind of one foot and one leg to stay on there instead of putting both feet high.
It's like a frog squat method. It's kind of like what I try to do when I try to climb on a Retz, you know, when you keep your feet low and you're just bumping them up. It feels quite stable when you're in that position. Not obviously on a dual text holding a World Cup, but you you understand the principle. So Holly, tries to put in a heel to start with. Looks better of it, and now she might, though.
That heel hold is not good, though. It's very low profile and doesn't have a lip to it, so she's really creating a lot of tension in between that toe and heel, and then as it comes off, that hand hold is not quite good enough to hold an unexpected swing on.
I can see how she's trying to save energy, but it didn't look like she saved any. In fact, it looked more physical doing it that way. Anon can't quite get this start figured out.
Chloe trying a different method on this second boulder here and making it work. Quite impressive from her. Wow, almost bypassing this hold out left, but using it for a second here to help make this next move.
Yeah, very little feet to use down there, just a bad little left. And now comes through, gets the knee in nicely, bumps that left hand.
Strong work from Chloe. Looking to make a top here.
Then the heel, but I think she's going to change her mind and just jump for it. Once a foothold, there is none to be had for that right.
She's still got time, just under 2 minutes to try and do that again. It's quite a physical boulder, though. She'll definitely want to take a little rest before she tries to do that again.
Anon, she's trying to find the texture surface. You can see the lighter section where she's going has no texture. You can see she's on, oh, she's right in the danger zone. Half on the slippery bit, half on the texture, but she's going for it, has to.
Making it work.
Which method will she go for? The clever Miho Nanaka way or the big jump to the slippy sloper? Oh, easy.
Wow. Good work from Anon Matsufuji. 3 tops and 4 zones for her. It'll be interesting to see where that score ends up after this round is complete.
Holly has a minute as she again gets the heel, but looks a little more comfortable with it this time. The problem is trying to get up to that hole. We saw Petra's method work really well because she had a centre of gravity underneath her, or her weight was in the right place, but Holly's trying to do it sideways. Much more difficult.
Yes, definitely. Petra was very smart to do that. Bringing your hips underneath your hands makes it easier to pull to the next hold and takes a bit of the momentum factor out of it.
She's straight back on the wall, and we can see how she got into that. Oh, a dry fire with the left hand. Dry fire when you just pop off a hold unexpectedly. A siren in the background, if you can hear it. Not quite sure what that is. It's not part of the comp. If you can hear that in the background.
And Chloe's going to walk away from this boulder. This is one of those instances where a physical boulder, sometimes it's best to walk away with 30 seconds because it's going to be hard to get it done in that amount of time, and it's better to just save your energy for the next one.
So Holly leaves. We ban over our crowd, who are definitely playing up to the cameras. And let's watch a replay of this. So this is Futoa Ito's top, and that was the style. You can see that left leg flicking all the way around to hold the swing. Something that really we started seeing Yanya do a couple of years ago, and it seems to have bled into the philosophy of a lot of jumpy moves. Yanya Garnbrett. We have got a couple of athletes missing as the lead season starts to loom next week. No, 2 weeks in Innsbruck. That will start. So Brooke Rabitou, I know, has made the decision not to compete in this boulder to get herself ready for lead. Was that did you talk to her about that decision? Was it something that was easy for her to make? Or?
Definitely not an easy decision for her, or for any athlete for that matter. It's hard to miss out on a competition ever. I think we all have a bit of FOMO, fear of not getting to climb on all the fun boulders at these events. But there's not a lot of time this season to train for the lead, so definitely a smart decision to do what feels best for you and potentially taking a bit of a break to build up that endurance.
Jessica Pilch, she was in the Olympics, remember, and makes quick work of this boulder. Again, another athlete slightly struggling for consistency this year.
Yeah, she's had a great season so far, though. This is her 5th of 5 semifinals, and she made one of the finals in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, consistency perhaps the wrong word for me. I think I expect her to be on podiums,
yes,
and then
yeah.
I'm slightly surprised when she's not, perhaps. She is such a strong athlete. She made quick work of that. Camila Moroney, can she figure out this tricky little sequence?
Matching this tiny hold here.
Oh.
Looks like she's got her skin and maybe her fingers taped up, but that middle finger there taped up with potentially from trying that coordination method on the 3rd boulder. I'm sure that took layers and layers of skin away. So.
Absolutely, the women need to be conscious of that because they qualified yesterday, they climbed today. The men get today off. They get to regrow some skin.
And warm weather is never good for your skin. It can kind of soften it up and make it fall off more while you're grabbing super textured holds. It just kind of rubs off when it's warm and your skin's too soft like that. So.
And you can see Ayala Karem there just asking the brusher to get that top sloper in perfect condition for her. And you can see, yeah, that's the conditions we're talking about. It is hot today. There's a bit of a wind blowing through the stadium, but actually it won't really get to the athletes because they're set back in that wall. So they have to deal with the temperature, but at least they're in the shade.
Finding this method on this 4th boulder seems to be difficult. That box of reaching around the corner there is pretty small. That foot ends up quite high and right next to your palm, so it's hard to find the best way to fit in there.
So I think our clock has just momentarily stopped. It is still ticking away, I can assure you. Ayala Karim took a moment just to rest. She's standing on that mat at the bottom. Should have brought it on, make sure her feet are clean. And Vita doing the Petra Klingler method, weight underneath herself and making that campus move look smooth. And now, has she seen this left hold? She's certainly looking over to the left. She wants to pop, you can see by her body language, but it's so difficult when you're far on the right.
And that zone hold she's holding on to is not great, but
there
there she
gets
finds it.
Yeah, there is that left hand.
Doesn't add too much, but it is enough to really help get into this next hold. Smart knee bar from Vita. Potentially very hard to get out of, though.
Well, I was about to say, it was clever, but she's almost trapped in it then.
Yeah.
You can see her struggling to remove it, but that was the intended beater, apart from the knee, for that top. Camila has 55 seconds, which is not long on this boulder.
Waiting for the time to tick down and give potentially just one last good attempt.
Yeah, time management is such an important factor in these comps, and I know that the athletes are practicing it, you're doing comp simulations. You do have an idea of how long it's going to take you, don't you?
Yeah, you start to realize that actually a lot of boulders can be done in quite a short amount of time, but you always want to leave yourself a little bit of room just in case. It's always a heartbreaker if you time out going to the finish, but looks like Ayala will have enough time if she can figure out this last move here. Wow, really rocking over that heel. Oh, and not quite making it work.
I mean, the unwind with that left hand would have been massive if she had got it. She didn't get it. Leaves the stage. Camila leaves the stage. Tired-looking athletes.
Some disappointment for sure. It's heartbreaking always to fall off right at a finish hold, especially when it comes out from under your fingertips.
This was Jessie. I'd forgotten that she was...
She climbed this boulder in, I think, under 30 seconds, actually. So we really almost barely got to see her. She was so fast.
Yeah, she came in, she left.
Yeah.
I forgot she was even there. But no, quick work for Jessie. And this was Ayala Karim at the top. This was the move. If she had managed to get this left hand in, she would have had to unwind that right, and it would have been a very difficult swing to hold. So we are about, I'd say, halfway through, I think, ish. Francesca Stedder comes out onto the stage, another Team Austrian athlete. They all made the journey over by train the other day, and of course, they'll be returning to Austria, to Innsbruck, very soon for a big week of competing.
Yes, the Innsbruck is going to have a lot of action in the next few weeks. Apart from the World Cup, there's also university and paraclimbing championships.
Francesca, a big yes from her at the top. The mic's on the wall, picking up the emotion. Yes, you're right, there's a lot of climbing. I'll be calling the action for all of those comps, so if you love comp climbing, you've got 2 weeks of brilliant competition ahead of you. Holly Toothall gets herself around the corner and comes back down quite quickly. And Futaba Ito, yes, at the top. Way better body position now.
Wow, almost making that into a coordination heel catch for the finish move there.
Do you guys practice falling off the top of these moves? Is that like a sort of a ninja roll technique talk? Because some of these falls we're seeing, especially this season, are huge from the top.
Yeah, I guess I'm not one to talk. I actually hurt myself falling earlier this season, so I shouldn't be an example. But we do talk about sometimes there are certain athletes who are particularly good at falling, and it is a skill to, I mean, not get injured, but then also to just like not tweak your back or stuff like that. I guess I don't think we practice it, but you will notice that some athletes are just naturally good in the air, good at finding the ground. It is important because falling from that high can be dangerous.
It seems like a spatial awareness thing. You get some who seem to turn themselves magically in the air and land like a cat.
Yes.
I'm always impressed by that. So Futaba Ito is 2 minutes 40 on the clock. She rests. Most of the athletes opting for the double chalk bag, one on them and then one on back on the mats.
It's important, especially in warm weather like this. Sometimes you need to add a little bit more chalk halfway through the climb. Chloe really paying close attention to detail while brushing that hold.
Sort of urban myth that's been thrown around. Well, I'll talk about this in a second. I've got something to ask you about heat chambers, but we'll discuss this in a second. So Futaba Ito presses around the corner, comes into that pocket, makes the left hand stick nicely, flicks the right.
Looking to finish up this climb. Got really close on her last attempt. I wonder what method we'll see from her here.
That seems to be the way, doesn't it?
Wow.
Oh, the heel at the end.
Style points for sure.
And the fall, look at that.
Yes, yeah. It's interesting to see. We saw her other two teammates, Anon and Miho, do the same beta for that, and she had a slightly different method, but sometimes it's interesting to see teammates have very similar styles of climbing.
Yeah, and often they get to discuss it, especially in the finals where they get to see the boulders. They get to chat between the team, and often we see teammates doing it in a similar way. Yeah, is it true that Team USA built a sort of a heat chamber before the Olympics to practice for the humidity?
Yeah, there was this odd-looking box in our training center, and if you went in the door, there was a board to train on, and a few volumes up there, and it was in place for the Olympians to train before Tokyo because of the hot, humid weather there. I'm not sure how helpful it ended up being. I never really asked afterwards to see how they felt, but I heard it was definitely not fun in the process.
Yeah, I can imagine. It was just such an impressive little bit of knowledge, that, I thought. So that is our leaderboard. Miho Nanaka still leads the way with 4 tops. And all the way down, we're looking for our 6 finalists.
It'll be interesting. Miho had very few attempts to her tops, so she could stay in that first position, might not. But only 5 attempts total to do all 4 boulders. So that means she only fell once.
Yeah, Julia Kruder already outside of the top 6, so she won't be making it through. Same with Oceana McKenzie.
Ollie running out of time here, but figuring it out towards the end. It seems like one of those boulders where if you can figure it out earlier, maybe you have a good chance. But if you can't figure out that lower section, it's really difficult.
There's Francesca Stella pressing to the end of women's 1. We've seen a lot of tops on that.
She was very psyched to finish that one off.
Has anyone actually failed?
No, we have tops across the board and no more than 2 attempts to the top of that first boulder. Actually, I was incorrect on that, but for the most part, first or second try from most of the field.
So a quick boulder. Stasha Geo is on the mats. She will be looking for a finals. She told me she was a bit disappointed with how Salt Lake went. She wants to sort of forget about that, didn't make the finals, and will be looking to bounce back here, and was throwing herself around yesterday.
Yeah, while she didn't make the finals in Salt Lake, she did make the finals at the previous 2 World Cups in Seoul and Meiringen, so she's definitely consistent.
Yeah, she's having a great season so far. We'll put America behind her, and she's good at that. She can move on quickly and makes fast work of this boulder, which you have to do.
Yeah, it's becoming apparent that that first boulder is essential.
Ayala with that right crimp method, and you can see it's the body position that messes you up. You think it's the right way to go, and suddenly you're all trapped on the right, wanting to go left. And now she's changing things up, slaps out left. This is better from her.
It definitely is more physical when you go low to that hold, but it sets you up way better for this top sequence.
She's trying to bump that right hand to get out of the way of the right knee. Has a good long look at that hold. Jessie not really with the knee scrub. Now she's trying to get it in, but mainly using just the power. Went for the right. The problem, if you go with right up to that crimp, you then have this awkward top section, whereas if you go left, it's an easier top.
I think we've only seen Vita do it with the right hand there. Everyone else seems to be going left-handed, making it look a bit better. But at least we know both ways are possible.
Peter Lucan's currently in third.
A third top for her would be a great addition to her score. Nice with the foot out first. So accurate, missing the dual textured part of that volume.
Yeah, now she's turning. We've seen this before. Watch that left drop knee into, oh, she's...
There you can see that that yellow hold doesn't have texture on top.
Yeah, you can get a thumb into the dish. That is the only bit with friction, but it's awkward. Now as you can see her struggling.
Oh, not quite. I don't think she had her left foot on there, which seemed to be really important for both Anon and Miho, who did that boulder earlier.
Ayala Karem is back. She'll know to go left now and doesn't even bother with the right side. She works her way over, but yeah, it's the lack of feet under there. Minute 40 on the clock. Jessie still in action. Looks out, checks the time. How aware, Quinn, when you're climbing in these, are you of position? Do you have any idea of where you're sort of standing in the rankings? Do you tend to look at the leaderboard, or do you just focus on yourself and don't worry about everyone else?
I think that it's a bit athlete to athlete on how conscious you choose to be, because if you really want to, back in the holding zone, you can pay attention to when athletes are coming in and figure out kind of who has done what boulders. But some athletes you'll see back in the holding zone will be listening to music with their eyes closed, so they're really trying not to pay attention to what other people are doing.
So Jessie is in a good place now for this final move. Pops up, makes us a
Maybe
surprise.
a little surprised, yeah. Making it work with the right hand.
That would have helped. So Jessie also in the mix. I think things are going to get hectic towards the end of this competition as athletes come in and out of that top six.
We still haven't seen 6 of the athletes, so we'll have a lot of action to come.
And some big hitters.
Names.
Yeah.
Some big names and a few unknown names coming in the next few climbers. So
Yeah, I can't wait to see certain athletes climb here. Jilo Lau from China is one of them, that 16-year-old who no one really knows much about coming into this.
as well as Sarika Okawachi from Japan, another dark horse.
So stick with us because we've got a good end to this competition coming up.
Ayala really gave a good fight on that boulder. It's definitely hard. She was close to doing the second boulder as well as this third boulder, and they're both quite physical, so it's pretty taxing when you spend a full 5 minutes trying hard on a boulder like that and then don't get rewarded.
Well, this was Stasha's top. She was rewarded quickly. She leaves. She left very fast. Jessie, this surprise top, almost that face. She'll take it.
It seems like those first two boulders are going to be really important for making the final because the third and fourth have seen fewer tops, so they're definitely a bit harder.
So this is the first of our dark horses. Sarika Okawachi from Japan hasn't competed in a long time. 2019, I want to say, was her last comp. So let's see what she can do. Ooh, popping off that first move. As we pan around, the climbing wall here at Verticale is on the left of your screen there. The bouldering wall in the
Figuring
main
out
area.
that handcuff move on the fourth boulder.
The fact, Quinn, that you saw that handcuff move straight away when we looked at the boulders, will Chloe have read it in a similar way to you?
I would think so. We spend a lot of time training together, and that's a move that we're both pretty familiar with, so I would not be surprised if she saw that immediately as well.
And there it is. Look at her hands crossed. Hence the name and handcuff move. And now she needs to unwind, go out with the left. Oh, for the double slap.
That is a move that Chloe is a big fan of, so I wasn't surprised to see her trying to go fast there, but it seems that it's better if you go a bit slower and more controlled in unwinding out of that handcuff move.
Futaba Ito climbs herself into what could be the trap on this boulder, crimping the top and going up. And of course, the more athletes try that, the more chalk there is on top, and the more the others are going to be thinking that is the way.
Yes, it's hard. Sometimes the chalk can be clues as how to do the boulder, but sometimes the chalk is quite the opposite. Just shows you ways that actually were not successful. But it's hard to know which as an athlete.
So Chloe goes back onto that slab. That the sort of turquoise, is that turquoise? What is that, green or blue? I don't know. Hold. Anyway, the volumes are a little bit less friction than some of them out there. And that might be getting worse as more athletes stand on it. It gets dirtier.
Just trying a different method here, making it look quite nice. That's actually a foothold for the most part that she's grabbing, but she's making it work as a handhold.
Yeah, good thinking from Chloe.
It's always fun to see athletes find the best method for them. Hitting the zone.
Great work from her with 2 minutes 15. Sort of frog squatting down to rest on that hold. Looking great here, Chloe. She's got one top to her name already. 2 zones.
Nice.
Out to the press.
Trying hard in this press. It's definitely not comfortable and getting quite a high foot. Wow.
Yeah,
this is different from what we've seen.
This is going to be really awkward now. She hasn't really got anything. She's going to look down and palm, yeah, but there's not any friction on that 2 palm.
Yeah, that would have been a very slippery palm hold.
So Chloe's going to have to rethink that top, which is a shame because she really figured the Peter out down low. This is Francisca Stera. We heard the announcer going crazy in the background. This is her top. Her second?
Your second top, yeah. Sight.
Team Austria, another team this season, has really found a different gear.
Yes, it was cool to see them at the first Salt Lake World Cup. They had 2 men and 2 women in the finals. So as a team, they're looking awesome this season.
Futaba Ito is coming up to a minute on the clock. She might have just realised, gets a bit more urgency there.
She's quite young, but also one of the more experienced in this field. She's been on the international circuit for a good few years now, even though she's still one of the younger.
That heel so different from Holly's. Holly had all of her weight during one side and a big split from Futaba to get into that position. Now Chloe knows the bottom, but she's having to work a little harder on this attempt.
Still making it work.
Yeah, she's a move away from the rest, but she won't be able to rest that long. Clock ticking down, comes to the zone hold. Now she'll be looking to squat down, but she's got 20 seconds on the clock.
It's nice to, well, losing Chloe, but we got a good look at how small those holds are there.
So Chloe leaves. Will that be enough?
1 top for her, looking like it won't be enough for finals, but.
You see a replay. Okiwachi, again, another relatively unknown, or certainly coming back into the comp scene. Yeah, there were certain names when I was recording the qualification highlights last night. And I really had to look again at some of these names. We're seeing some surprises coming through, which is great. It's so good for the sport when we see that. Stashigeo moves on to boulder 2.
And we have Cheon out on the first boulder. She's had a really awesome season. Previously, I think most people would have considered her a lead climber, but she's definitely proving us otherwise. She's made a final already this season and lots of semifinals, so.
Yeah, she's patiently been building that up a bit because, as you said, she is just considered a lead climber, but I know she has Olympic aspirations.
Yes.
And I think she did need to make another step in bouldering. She seems to have done that.
Yes. This is her 3rd semifinal this season, and she made finals in Salt Lake.
So Stasha heavily taped up. I know she had a few finger injuries coming out of Salt Lake as well. A few injuries, tweaks, little niggles. Locks in the knee bar.
Hard here. You can see that leg shaking, but nice. That was very clean, bringing that heel in.
Stasha is feeling good this weekend, which is good news for us, because when she's feeling good, she tends to unleash some stuff on the wall, making her bid for finals. Ayala was very disappointed when she left the stage after the last boulder. Seemed really down.
Yes. Feeling maybe a bit defeated after the last 2 boulders. She tried so hard.
Jessie campusing through. That seems to be the method for that so far. Now, will she fall into the trap? Or it may not be a trap. I mean, you know, I'd quite like to see an athlete do it with that right method, but it's going to require so much shoulder pressing to get up.
With volumes that have as much usable surface as this, often there's more than one way to navigate them. But it's interesting because we have only seen one top on this boulder so far, so there hasn't been more than one method.
And Jessie now, the energy will be bleeding out of her arms. She's, oh God, I mean, her knee is up by her face here on this. Drops back down. She needs to snatch into that right. Looks for the knee bar to take the weight off.
Very physical, having two hands kind of in undercling positions, very bicep-y. And she stayed there for a pretty impressive period of time.
Well, if you're just joining us, welcome to Brixen in northern Italy. We're here for the women's semi-finals. Coming towards the end of this semi-finals now, but still plenty of climbing. We've got Quinn Mason in the box with me here today, offering some expert insights into what these athletes are thinking. And Ayala Karem now nearing the top, that right hand on that dual text. So right foot on the dual text.
Such a difficult top section of this boulder. We've seen athletes get here and not be able to finish it off, but she's looking steady right now.
That thumb pressing into the only bit of friction on that hold makes the match.
Great work from her.
And I think her body language will be different leaving the stage this time. Head was down before, it will be up now as she goes off the stage for a well-deserved rest.
Getting that second top puts her in 4th position for now. We'll see if that holds.
So Xian So has yet to figure this one out, which is interesting because it's probably the most obvious in terms of beta. We haven't really seen her. Oh, lovely swinging, and it's down there she loses it.
It's definitely the most compy, as I would say, like coordination style is what I consider to be comp style now. And while because she is new to this bouldering World Cup scene, maybe it's a bit more challenging for her.
Yeah, excellent point. So Jessica Pilch again gets the knee. She wanted to do that the first time. Doesn't want to knee her own fingers though, and now she can get into the undercling, but it's a long way above her head, and the pull you've got to do on that makes it so much harder if you're not directly up on it.
Yeah, it's an interesting combination of trying to pull and press out of that position, but it's probably the hardest boulder of this round.
And so again, it's that move which we've seen hardly anyone else struggle for, and it's interesting how suddenly an athlete can just have a bit of moment on a section that hasn't really played any part for anyone else.
It's always hard to say in a World Cup, though, in a semi-final especially, all these athletes are so good, so just because they all did a boulder does not mean it's easy by any means. So.
Exactly, easy is just a ridiculous word to use, isn't
Yes.
it? I mean,
yeah.
This is the top level here. And often, oh, not often, but sometimes the semi-final boulders are actually harder than the finals, because the route setters know by that point they're tired, they've got less skin. Semi-finals, it gets brutal.
Semi-finals is all about separating out the field to get those top 6 for the finals, so they have to set hard. I think they did a really good job of that so far. We've only have 2 climbers with more than 2 tops, being Miho with 4 tops and Anon with 3 and 4 zones. The rest of the field spread out with a combination of either 2 or 1 tops at the moment.
And that's spread. Now, let's pause a moment, because this is the 16-year-old Chinese athlete, Jielu Lao, who we don't know a lot about. It's going to be fascinating. We could be about to witness the birth of someone very special.
Only 16 years old, came out very late in the qualification start list yesterday, and then just rocketed herself to the top of the leaderboard with 5 tops.
Yeah, keep an eye on her. I have a feeling she's either going to crash and burn or be spectacularly good. We'll see. Francisca Stella, she's having a great comp, 2 out of 2.
And a great season for her. She's been slowly working, like season's just getting better and better over the past years, and this is her best one so far. Made her first final in Salt Lake. She's a fun competitor to watch.
Almost in a figure four there with her feet, knee over her hands.
Yeah, a bit taller, so this is maybe a bit awkward for her, but this looks like a really good method if she can make it work.
This is the thuggy move now, this snatch to the right. She's setting up for it, eyeing it up.
Such a small hold that she's going for, but couldn't quite make it work.
It was like she missed her window there.
Yeah.
I could see the balancing point, and then she just tried to make one more adjustment, and it didn't work.
If she could get back up there, I feel like the method that Francisco was using looked to be promising. And you see Jilu get the top of the first boulder.
Quite a quick control there. She cut that fine. No emotion as she walks off. Maybe a hint of a smile. A hint.
Sometimes I feel like the younger athletes, when they have less experience, sometimes you actually just see a little less emotion. It's an overwhelming stage to be on, so it's hard to just let all of your emotions show.
Yeah, we talk about the transition from the junior circuit into the seniors quite often, but some athletes just won't have had necessarily even that background. You know, if you're not European based, you haven't got all the cups.
Yeah.
I mean, this is even more of a step up.
It is interesting. The European athletes have a lot of comps in between the European youth circuit as well as just the adult European circuit, so they get to compete and see each other a lot. And then anyone who's not on that European circuit is generally a little bit less known, just fewer comps to their name.
Well, the sun here is really intense. It's 12:30. We're hiding from it here in the commentary box as it's slowly rotating into our position, but the athletes are climbing in the hottest part of the day.
I'm sure that they're very thankful that they have this tent to protect them from the direct sun, but that is not to say that it isn't heating up under there.
Yeah, and the humidity was interesting. When they had the curtain shut this morning, it felt humid. The holds had a little bit of, I don't even know what to call it, like smidge to it. I don't know, like sort of it's just greasy perhaps.
Yes.
But once they opened that curtain, it allowed a bit of air in, and I think it's probably improved for them.
Sarika finishing off that second boulder.
Yeah, Sarika, 2 out of 2. Dark Horse is making good progress.
Japanese team representing really well in this semi-final so far.
Futaba Ito, foot up. Trying to avoid that handcuff move we've seen. Will look to bring her right hand into that crimp. Does, but she now needs to rotate her body, and that's what's hard on this small hold. There's the twist. Good strength from her. She locks in the left foot with a minute to go. Makes the snatch to the zone, and now she'll have a second of breathing time where she can shake out, re-chalk up for this final press move right.
This top section has been tricky for some of the athletes.
She eyes it up, taking her time.
Some have been going feet first over into that dual text volume, and then some leading with the palm into that higher volume.
Out she goes, catches the thumb on the edge of that volume. One move to go. Crosses over, makes the match.
Very nice from her. That's her third top. That'll put her in a really good position. Third position behind her teammates, actually. 3 Japanese athletes leading the way right now. That's interesting to see. Potentially it's a good style for the Japanese team.
Yeah, we're sort of used to in the last couple of comps the Japanese team dominating the men's finals. Perhaps we're about to see the same thing for the women's side of things. And this is 16-year-old Jilu Lau, who made a mistake on the first go through, and I think it was second she got it done, maybe third. Back at top from Okawachi. Futaba Ito crosses through into that slopey final hold. The match holding it for a long time just to make sure. Hannah Moyle comes out. As we said before, she had a few scheduled rest times, so she missed the second Salt Lake City comp, and she had illness earlier on in the season, so we didn't see as much of her as we would do normally. But Hannah Moyle is someone who has found something during the off-season. She's come back in a different level of form.
Yeah, she's been on the circuit for years and years, done well on the youth side. Always been present on the adult circuit, but hasn't made any finals in bouldering and has been close this season. So it'll be interesting to see if she can get it done at this event.
Wresting her way through this, trying not to make any mistakes. She's final 3 athletes to come out, so we're nearing the end now. Locks back that shoulder and a quick top, yeah. The relief we've seen of these athletes, they know the Boulder one is climbable. They know they have to really climb it. So I think when they get it done, it's just, yeah, euphoria from them.
I think it's also quite a fun one for the athletes. I think most athletes enjoy the jumpy style.
You sort of have to as a modern comp climber, don't you? If you dislike that, I think you're in the wrong sport at the moment.
It is a bit of a requirement now.
Yeah.
Jessie looking really good on this 4th boulder.
Yeah, she's had a sort of quite quiet but very successful semi-finals. She gets this done. I mean, she's currently in 6th, so sitting in the danger zone, but this would help. Up she presses with the foot.
Transition, not an easy one. Getting the foot to where it needs to be. And making it work. A bit of a scary moment there as she moved a little bit quickly towards that dual text finish, but she controlled it. It's a top for her, bumping Futaba into 4th place, and now Jessie is in 3rd. 2nd through 4th place right now, all with 3 tops and 4 zones, and Miho still leading the way with 4 tops. Seems like 3 tops, 4 zones might be essential for the final, and then it could come down to attempts after that, but we shall see with the next athlete still coming.
Yeah, so we know where the bar is set at. This is the 57th World Cup event, if you've been counting. And Stasha cleans up that starting hold, gave the hold a good talking to.
Yeah, she was looking a bit frustrated at this boulder. I think it's hard. We've seen a lot of athletes lose their feet on this boulder and then their hands come slipping off. That's always a frustrating feeling when you feel like you just fell due to a slip.
Right, so this is a very Stasha-style move here. She sees the foot drop, pumps out, but looking a little bit fatigued as she goes up.
Getting her feet way above her head there. Double toe hooks and a bit of a rest.
Yeah, she did well to find that because it's not very good, that black volume.
Getting the zone now.
Oh, nearly losing it, dropping the feet down, quickly gets re-established.
It's becoming more and more impressive that Miho was able to flash this boulder. It's crazy. She still has the only top of this boulder as well. 1 minute left for Stasha.
This is going to be frustrating for her if she can't get this done now, and she can't, comes down.
So fatiguing.
Yeah.
Wonder if that was her saying that she wasn't going to try it again. I'm not sure.
That's her dad and mum there in the audience. We did a little feature with them because they travel the world together, coaching, being parents, and a very interesting family on the scene.
Seems like they have a pretty great dynamic.
The Stash is done, which is probably smart, to be honest, because she's got the zone.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if she knows this, but zone is maybe all you need on that boulder if you can get the other 3 done in a few attempts.
Yeah, I think the exact maths she might not, but she's experienced enough just to know the boulders that you perhaps don't need to finish.
Yes, she does have 2 flashes already. I'm interested to know if the athletes have been paying attention and know that no one has really done that 3rd boulder. It was a while ago that Miho did it as well, so they may not know that anyone's done it.
Is there a lot of chat when someone climbs something and goes back? I know it's not really allowed, is it, to talk about the
No.
boulder, so I presume everyone keeps very silent.
But it's clear when, you can tell when an athlete comes back in early and you're like, I bet they did that with the boulder. It's not often that an athlete will just come back in from a boulder with over a minute left unless they completed it. So.
Yeah, and I imagine the big smile makes a difference as well.
Yeah.
as a clue.
It's interesting. Some athletes definitely like to show their emotions. Some keep them on the inside.
It's a whole world, this. I love having an athlete in the box as you find out all these little details. So Fanny Gibber from France is out. A few French team missing. Oriane Berton. She put on her Instagram account that she had a bit of an injury and also wanted to focus on the lead, so she's not here. Manu Cornu, he's injured as well. So Team France a little down on numbers, but Fanny Gibber doing fantastic work. There is Fanny Gibber. Maybe settling her nerves here.
Ji Lu Lao on the second boulder now, already past the zone, eyeing up the last moves of this climb.
I'm smiling to myself here because she's making this look very easy, which
Very
is
impressive
ominous.
from her, yeah, first attempt getting that boulder done. She's definitely making a name for herself already.
It's so exciting when you see these very young athletes coming through because you think, is this the Yanya moment that happened a couple of years ago when someone comes on and just blows things out of the water?
Yeah, it's so cool. You really never know.
I might be overhyping this, to be honest, but I'm still excited. Sarika. Now, she's got stood up using the right-hand side method, but this is where things tend to come undone because standing up from here is hard.
Tried to flip that little right-hand hold. I think flipping it would make that move easier, but it definitely doesn't look easy to do so.
Francisca palming to get that right and then starting to turn. You can see how thin it is because she's got her hand right beside it and it's only the thickness of her hand.
And such a high foot there. It's very awkward. Hard body position to get into.
Tell you what, Quinn, this semi-finals has flown by for me. This has been a good comp.
These boulders are great, very entertaining to watch and providing such a good challenge for all the athletes. It's fun to see that all the boulders are possible, knowing that they've all been done, and then to not see them all get done is what makes it so exciting.
Hey, Francesca Sterra works her feet up. Look at that.
Yeah,
I mean,
tiptoeing up that volume.
Yeah, it's a good demonstration that for anyone watching that you need to make these little adjustments. I think so often in climbing we go for the big moves, you know, especially if you're not at this kind of a level, when sometimes all it needs is a little adjustment.
Yeah, this boulder is one to have a lot of little adjustments. The most complex, I think, of this set.
And with those adjustments, I mean, when you climb, what, are you waiting just for it to feel right? Is it just an instinct thing?
That's an interesting thing because that's something I talk with my coach with a bunch. Waiting is something I try to avoid because if you're waiting, then you're not committing and you're maybe just wasting time. So yeah, it is finding what feels right, but not waiting for it. Sometimes it's better to just force it. You can't always be comfortable on the wall, especially not at a World Cup event. So anticipating the discomfort and being ready for it and just dealing with it is often the way.
Yeah, it's been described to me that pro climbers just try harder, and there is something in that because there's a, like, what you think your try hard is, you can always go further than that, and I think athletes have an ability to tap into that and just not worry about the pain, the discomfort, and just give everything, which most people struggle to do.
Yes, I think that's why we're seeing, like you just mentioned, some of the French team is a bit injured right now, as well as a few others just like competing and having so many comps in a row. It's hard to stay healthy just because in these events you're putting in 110% effort and sometimes the body can't quite handle it.
So she's going at it again, crimping that right hand. Do you think she just, I mean, she's obviously seen that left hand hold. Is she just thinking, look, it just doesn't make sense to me in the moment?
Yeah, I think it's hard, especially because her last attempt, she kind of got close to making her method work. So when you know something's possible, it's really hard to decide to not do it that way, even if you can see a hold that maybe is intended beta.
Well, we saw in South Korea, one of the women's final boulders sort of had a red herring where a hold was harder if you used it. It was a zone hold. So, you know, it's just because there's a hold there doesn't mean you should use it necessarily.
Yeah.
Francesca gets frustrated there with 4 seconds to go. She won't get a top. She leaves. And finally, Natalya Grossman, I'm pretty sure anyway, well, unless I've got this wrong, but she'll be joining us from the left. Well, let's watch some replays. This is Fanny Gibber. We didn't see her finish this off. Oh, just held the swing.
That was quite a dramatic swing from Fanny.
Up she goes, pressing to the top. Xianso down there on the right, Stasha's final boulder.
Natalia's definitely become one that we've come to expect to see in the final, so it'll be interesting to see how she does on these semi-final boulders.
She's going, Natalya Grossman, which I'm sure we'll see in a second, is going for her 4th in a row. Well, there she is, gold medal. She hasn't looked back. Maringin, she was beaten by Yanya. Yanya then decided to focus on the lead season, which is nothing to take away from Natalia. I'm just explaining the sort of process. And then since then, Natalia has just been in a league of her own.
Yes, she is really incredible. Showing us there on this first boulder, getting it done really fast. With a big smile. I've heard some rumors that we might see Anya in a Boulder World Cup in just 2 weeks or so, but I won't spill too many secrets.
Yes.
Don't know for sure.
No, I know, I've heard those rumors too. It's, I mean, she's there. She's there for the lead.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Innsbruck is a Boulder and lead World Cup back-to-back. It'll be a long weekend for all of us athletes, but it'll be exciting to watch all the action.
So we've got paraclimbing, we've got everything taking place that week.
And a quick shout out to paraclimbing. If you haven't watched it before, it is super entertaining and great to see those athletes try hard.
It's my favorite comp, honestly. Like, I love watching, I love speaking on that. So that's to come soon, but right now, semi-finals time in Brixen, and Stasha Geo is on a problem that she will relish, which is a complicated, tricky, techie thing. She likes working this out.
Looking great so far. Still has 3 minutes left on the clock and is already working up towards the top of it. A third top would put her in a really nice position.
Up she goes, fingers pressing down. She crosses through, but realizes it's dual text and had to oh, and then pops off. And a big scream from Stasha.
Not quite finishing on that attempt. Hopefully she'll have enough time to get up there and figure it out. She does have 2 flashes already, and that was her first attempt on that boulder. So getting it done on the second would likely put her in second position.
And Hannah Moyle shakes out as she looks up at the wall. Lovely shot that, just showing the journey they've got to go on from the right all the way to the top. You can see the start hold in the blue circle and the top hold in the blue circle written on the wall. Stasha from Serbia, the only athlete really representing at this level from that country. Shenso
making that heel work. We haven't seen much of that beta on this climb.
She's 13th. Missed, interesting, look, missed the top on women's 1.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the only athlete we've seen not get the top on that first one.
Yeah, that might prove problematic for her. She needs a lot of tops now, really needs a top of this, and as we know, it's not easy to top, but she's going the right way about it.
It is interesting, sometimes we see athletes with the same score, but with tops on different boulders. That is possible here.
Yeah, if she can make this snatch, and she can, you'd sort of think that she might be in here, eyes the top, drops the right knee down and chalks up. There are no more handholds to the top, so you've got to get your feet set and then, as you can see, pop up.
Hold. It's good, but definitely not great, and it's pretty far away. But she makes it work.
Yeah, she needed that.
It's incredible.
Her life would have been easier if she topped out boulder 1, but she's doing it the hard way.
It is always so unfortunate when you see that. Like, if she had topped that first boulder, she would be in a really, really nice position right now. Not to say that she isn't. She could still top that last boulder and put herself in the top 6 in contention for the final.
So Stasha, with 40 seconds to go, needs this really. I know she's currently in the finals, but there's some athletes to go. So, and she's not got long. And then a big pop. Are we starting to see the humidity? I think she's annoyed.
Maybe. It is hard to get so close to a boulder. Know you can do it, but know it was hard to get there and know you have to get back there. That's probably one of the most difficult mental battles an athlete will ever have in a round like this. Unfortunately, she did not win that battle this time around. But
yeah, and yeah, we talk about composure a lot. I think Stasha's one of those athletes who, you know, you get some athletes who, when they lose it a bit, they lose their composure. I think Stasha, it's a bit of fuel for her. And as we said, she's not out yet. She's in 5th. Time will tell. Hannah Moyle topping out, I think, yes. Boulder 2.
impressive way to do that. No heel hook needed over on the left side.
Yeah, let's watch that again. That
kind
pop.
of used that knee a bit too in there.
Yeah, she's not doing that sort of that jump into the heel we saw some do to catch that swing.
Just pure strength to hold that finish hold from Hannah.
I think strength and conditioning is something she was working on.
You can see the athlete zone there for a second. A lot of the athletes are huddled under umbrellas trying to stay out of the sun. A lot of the men are here watching and cheering on their teammates, but some of them are still competing tomorrow, so they're trying not to get too exhausted out in the sun.
Yeah, it is bright, and although that open stadium is lovely, as you said, it's in no way sheltered.
We're back down to only 3 athletes on the wall. No one's on the first boulder anymore. And we'll see less and less climbers as we near the end of this semifinal round.
Yeah, we're winding down now. You get to focus on a few. Fanny Gibber is our focus right now. Comes around the corner, quite blind, that left foot. French team with the allays in the background. They give so much support.
Always fun to hear the different teams. You can really tell when the team is cheering for an athlete on the wall. You can hear their different languages and what they use to cheer the athletes on.
I think we should play a game. We can, someone can shout out something. We'll try to pick the team because, as you said, it's distinctive. Sarika in the zone.
On her first attempt of this boulder still.
Zone flashes up. Box half filled in. Oh, and struggling here. She's aiming for that little strip of texture on the triangle-shaped, non-texture bit of that volume.
We've seen about half and half people of the athletes go hand first or foot first, opting for the hand first, but on a lower position than we've seen some of the athletes do. Still making it work, though.
Yeah, she bumps that right foot up, drills it in, and she's, oh, look how close she is to standing on the dual text. Just don't look down. And now she's got a long way to match, but she did well.
It work.
That was interesting. It didn't look like the best beaten necessarily, but she figured it out.
What?
Oh!
Not quite. So impressive out of Jilu, though. Only the 3rd athlete we've seen get close to that finish hold. Seems like maybe she'll be able to get that done if she has enough energy to get back up there.
Yeah, I think she almost went from too low for that move. She could have worked her feet a little higher before committing to the jump.
That top from Sarika Okawachi put her in 2nd position. Still 3 Japanese leading the way right now, with 4 Japanese in the top 6. Quite impressive.
Yeah, story of today's semi-final.
Yes.
So, that is our stage. Camera's just panning across it. You can see the judges down at the front. The athletes are the next, the athletes and coaches are the next tier, huddled under the big umbrellas. A few cameras down there. Mics on the wall, cameras on the wall. It's a good setup here. Speakers to the left-hand side of the stage. It's always nice. We don't get blasted by music. We get to hear a little bit more of the athletes on the stage. And Fanny Gibber is using all of her experience here to read this route. She'll know all about timing.
Jilu waiting for that time to come down. She knows she can do this boulder. She had almost both hands on that finish hold, but didn't quite hold it last attempt. It'll be interesting to see if she can get it done.
Climbing is such a strange sport, isn't it? You know, we get this moment of heightened tension and yet no one's doing anything. You know, it's like there aren't many sports where you get that. It's like the athlete's breath is the heartbeat of the stadium in that moment. So Fanny Gibber again comes round the corner. She's way down at the moment, but has 2 boulders to go. And really needs a top on this boulder. Up she comes, climbing quicker now as she nears the top.
Using that knee really well.
Yeah, able to hang off it more than pretty much anyone else. Matches the final hole, but this is a big move. Gets the heel in first. And a good top from Fanny Gibber.
She'll be excited on that one.
Yeah, she's having one of those comps where there's something a little different about it. And I'm sure maybe even she can't put her finger on it, but she's just looking good here this morning, this afternoon now.
And so we did not see Jilu get that 3rd boulder done, which is unfortunate because she was so close. but she's definitely showing us that she's more than capable of making this final. But it'll come down to that last boulder for her.
Well, Miho Nonaka is leading the way with 4 tops and quick climbs for all of those. Lots of flashes for her. As you say, Japanese heavy final at the moment. Hannah Moyle is one of our last ones out, so that's why she's down in 13th currently.
As well as Natalia, she's only been on 1 boulder so far, hence only 1 top.
Yeah, Natalia came on and instantly left, having flashed that boulder, but there she is, back again.
Looking strong as ever on that move. She held those holds so high, really demonstrating her strength.
She's in that category of athletes at the moment, which is very annoying for route setters, because how do you set for someone who's in a different league, you know? And look at that, just cruising
so
through.
Strong. Yes, it's so hard to separate out athletes when they're capable of just flashing all the boulders. She didn't fall once in yesterday's qualification, so maybe she'll be looking to do the same today. I don't know.
Well, you said her skin is in excellent condition, right?
She does have really good skin. She almost, I don't know if she's ever really had to deal with bleeding tips during a competition. I shouldn't say that in full positivity, I'm not sure, maybe she has, but in general her skin's quite good, which is helpful in a round like this where it's so hot and other athletes are dealing with sweaty and soft skin.
Yeah, again, what other sports you talk about skin care, skin maintenance, skin growth?
It's funny, not many other sports would have such odd aspects to them like climbing does with the skin and skincare. A lot of athletes are very particular about how they take care of their skin. It's a funny conversation to have if you haven't had it with an athlete before.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that makes it really interesting about our sport, all the little other factors that come in. Hannah Moyle almost tried to get sort of a sideways knee bar then, and she has worked this out, and if she can get the snatch, which she can now, will be well set up.
Good position.
Going from very low though.
Heartbreaker for sure. It's so hard to fight into that position where you can jump from. And we already saw Gilou already get into that position, fail to make the jump, and she wasn't able to get back there. Hannah will have to rest and then fight quite hard to get into that position again if she wants to top that boulder.
Yeah, Sharon looks for the hand, gets it. Oh, she's just being called back. So you have to start in a stable, controlled position. She can fall off the wall here as she comes. So you have to start correctly, and rightly so. The judges will come and stop the athlete.
Yeah, those red flares indicate how many limbs you're supposed to have on what holds. So 3 on that right big blue volume and 1 on the one to the left.
See, again, she's got to surely bring... Yeah, I couldn't quite see the touch, her hand there. Anyway, the judges have allowed it. Oh, she's come down though. Yeah, and the rules have been tweaked slightly, so there's less of the sort of running, jump, quick go starts. You have to really show you're in control at the beginning.
Yeah, we've had a few instances in the past where attempts in establishing have ended up mattering if athletes establish wrong, and at attempts it has affected their score. So it is an important part, although I guess it's not often thought about.
Well, if you remember back to Maringi and Colin Duffy topping a boulder 3 times because of an incorrect starting position, so it's much better that the judges call it early.
Yes. Before an athlete has to climb the whole boulder and then come down and do it again.
Yeah, 3 times. That was impressive stuff. Tough for Colin. Minute buzzer goes. Sharon So is struggling with the start of this. Hannah Moyle came close, and she had a long rest, unless she had some attempts we didn't see. Yeah, this is only attempt 2, so she's rested away. And she'll have to straight away get back on. Interesting stuff as we come into the last few climbs of this boulder.
She's gonna have to fight hard for this one. Such a physical move here.
Yeah, nothing on her feet.
Just running out of gas.
So Hannah will leave, composes herself before walking off. Sharon So is not going to get it done. So she exits. Sometimes in comps we see the athletes going out of both sides of the arena. Not so in this one. There's one door and it's all the way on the left.
Makes it so that athletes have to run all the way across the stage to get to these last few boulders.
And we can see her jogging off. Now this is Natalia, who again, just, I mean, I sort of run out of things to say because, I mean, she doesn't make it look very difficult. It's just cruising at the moment, which doesn't mean it isn't difficult. She is trying so hard to get that done.
She is one athlete in particular who is just so good at trying leagues harder than most people will probably ever try. It's hard because, yes, she does make things look so easy, but when you can really watch her climb up close and in person, you can just tell that she leaves everything out there.
So Gelu could get herself into the finals here. She needs a fairly quick ascent of this.
Attempts might be important making this final. Seems like 3 tops and 4 zones will get you in, but low attempts would be helpful. We might have more than 6 people with that score.
So, does she have the experience? Has she judged her own energy levels? She timed it correctly. There's so many things that can come into play. The unknown Chinese athlete.
Making that beta work, that was definitely a physical way to do it, just crimping so hard on those little yellow holds, making her way around this corner now.
Yeah, comes into the pinch, gets the thumb in. Good moves from her, and then works with her feet. She's going to do a big snatch up to the zone. You can see her thinking through the moves. It's great. It's like there's no sort of blocker between brain and body. It's all working together at the moment. Oh, scrubbing with the left, pressing out.
Creeping the fingers around that volume. Super impressive climbing by Jilu. We've seen a number of athletes now get up into that top position with the higher feet and just kind of lose balance and bobble out from the wall.
So Fanny Gibber has had 2 tops. She's 60 at the moment. 3 minutes. It's a deep breath. Yeah, there's lots of time left. And at this stage, I think everyone on stage has worked out the beta for this move. Fanny maybe not so on the top of this one.
Hasn't found the zone yet. It'll be interesting to see what method she chooses.
Oh.
She definitely likes her heel hooks, and that is a way to do this boulder, but we've seen a lot of athletes choose to just cut their feet and campus through it. I really like it when they give the women campus boulders. It's been kind of a trend on the men's side of the setting, but more and more on the women's side.
I agree. I know you're interested in route setting, and that's something you've got an eye on for in the future.
Yeah, I'm always kind of seeing it from both perspectives, I guess, and as an athlete and also as a amateur route setter.
So, coming in now.
Jilu showing how high that first foot is. Many of the athletes were struggling to even get their foot up there, and she just rocketed it up there pretty easily.
Yeah, and then holds the little cut loose around the side into this frog squat position. Having to battle a little bit here. So big move into the zone, and then she gets a second to shake out.
See if she can get this top section figured out this time.
So far, so good for her, but this is where she started to have to work. She's pushing all the way up. Better position though now. Yeah, that's much better. Right, keep the concentration, make the match.
Her 3rd top of this round.
And we're waiting for confirmation on the scores, but that would jump her right up there. There it is, into 2nd place.
Looking like she'll stay in 2nd for now, or tied for 2nd. So hopefully that'll put her into the final safely. I think it will. We'd only have really 3 more athletes have yet to finish their round, so I think guaranteed finals for her at her first World Cup.
First
So
World
impressive.
Cup, 16, and 0 stats available for her. Could be seeing someone very exciting coming through. Fanny Gibber has 20 seconds. She comes down. She's not going to continue.
No zone for her on this boulder. Unfortunately, means she can't make the final. You need all 4 zones in order to be in that top 6, but she could still top that last boulder and bump her placement.
Well, that is our top 6. Futaba Ito in the danger zone at the moment. Jessica Pilch will also be nervously refreshing the app. Miho Nanaka, though, cruising at the moment. Natalya Grossman still has the potential to jump right to the top of this board, though. And there she is running out.
I'm excited to see her on this 3rd boulder. It's proven to be such an interesting challenge. Only 2 tops so far, but with 2 other athletes falling, going to that final hold.
I'd imagine that Hannah Moyle just has a bit of a cut or graze on her knee there. You can see the tape. You're not allowed blood on the wall, so the athletes do a bit of a patch job in between rounds, just stick some tape onto it and ignore it till later.
Yeah, you often see athletes with tape wrapped around their leg like that, and it's a bit confusing, but yes, it's just to keep blood from getting on the holds.
Wow, power from Natalia. And this is what she's so good at. I remember in South Korea when she flipped things and campers the section that no one else had done. She's good at it, but she's looking to go right now.
Yeah, this section is so tricky, though. It's less about power, more about figuring it out. But she's very capable of making her method work best for her, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think she's going to reassess. And you can see her just going with the left now. Turning it into a pinch on the right. Yeah, she's totally changed it. And that really is what shows her quality. Because I think, you're right, I think she could have pushed through that move, made something magical happen, but she decided just to completely back off and start again. Smart climbing.
She's super good at figuring things out on the wall. We're definitely seeing that here.
Right, gets the right. Will she jump low? She does.
Quick chalk.
Yeah, she needs to really set herself up for this. We've seen a few drop it.
Wow. Bit of a 1-2 with a pretty crazy leg swing, but she holds it. Her 3rd top.
She kind of pulled something out of the bag there, I reckon. She had to try really hard on that move, and that will put her way up the leaderboard.
She still, I think, has yet to fall in this competition so far. Pretty impressive.
A ridiculous statistic.
Yeah.
Hannah Moyle has fallen, but she's doing very well. Into the zone. She's got 2. We know that 3 tops in a zone is the area you need to get into, but it's all going to be about attempts, so.
Already has low attempt on the other boulders. Looking to get this one on her 1st attempt. And does it with a smile.
That could be enough for finals for Hannah Moyle.
That'll put her in 2nd position right now, so she'll be through to the finals this evening. Her 1st Boulder World Cup finals.
What a moment for Hannah Moyle. She leaves the stage as a finalist. And that must be like a good long walk at that point.
Yeah. Not a walk of shame, which
No.
is nice.
Milk that walk, Hannah. And the crowd appreciate her efforts. There's 1 umbrella I can see. Oh, no, 2 umbrellas. Smart people. I did not consider that. That's our top 6. Jessie right down low. And Hannah Moyle, we just saw her, jumps into 2nd place. Miho Nanaka still leading the way. And Natalya Grossman is moving up. 3rd position for her with 3 out of 3. And I'd be very surprised if she doesn't top that final boulder, or at least get to zone.
I think even if she gets the zone, that'll put her in the final, guaranteed. That would put her in 2nd position right now. And we still have Fanny Gibber, hasn't finished her round yet. Unfortunately, she can't make the final because she didn't get the zone on the 3rd boulder, but she can still top this 4th boulder, and that'll put her definitely a good number of spots higher.
Yeah, and she's definitely not going to give up. I mean, all of this is good experience as well. And as you mentioned at the beginning, I mean, you guys are out here for months at a time. There's a lot of comps coming up in the next 6 weeks.
And Fanny has plenty of comp experience already. And I doubt she knows that that zone is putting her out of finals. She's still going to fight like any athlete would. So it'll be good to see her give it her all on this last boulder.
So the pause now is because the athletes are waiting for the clock to tick down?
Similar to the beginning of the semifinal, when athletes are topping boulders, you end up having not too much action all of a sudden.
I love the build-up of the semi-finals. It starts slow, it gets hectic, and then it just slows down again, so you get a bit more focused.
Some of the athletes at the end get a nice special moment of being one of the only few on the wall. And often the athletes towards the end of the semifinal are topping boulders, so they get all the crowd's attention, all the crowd's love. That replay of Miho.
Yeah, that was a flash that I'm not even sure we caught on camera. It was so quick.
It wasn't. I think we had no idea it was happening. We were just talking away about something completely different while Miho was flashing a boulder that has seen very few tops in this round.
Sorry, Miho. But you saw the replay there, and look at these tops on that boulder. Different styles to get it done, but not many athletes getting to the top of that thing.
It's so interesting to see Chaeyoon did that boulder and was one of the only 3 to do it, but she's not in a position to be in tonight's final because she didn't do the first or last boulder. But it's always fun to see scores spread out like that across a round of boulders. It's a really good sign of great route setters and their ability to spread out an athlete field, and some athletes show their strengths in different places than others.
Fanny Gibber, as you said, cannot make finals, but she will want to finish this comp on a high. So let's see if she can figure out the sequences through here. She gets herself set up, taking time to read it.
Definitely an athlete who's good at figuring out beta. Just she has so much experience. But this one has been tricky, so hard to make any calls early.
8 p.m. is our finals here tonight, so everyone will get to go away and have a rest. There's a river right next to the stadium. I don't know if people have been getting in that as a bit of cold water treatment or whatever it's called.
It's a bit fast, that river.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit dangerous, but yeah. Some athletes prefer the long break in between the semifinals and finals. I know some don't. Natalia was telling me it's nice when you can just stay in the zone and it's kind of a quick transition in between rounds.
Yeah.
They have quite a long transition in between rounds today, but maybe that'll just make them a little bit more well-rested and ready to fight in the final.
Absolutely, and that's what we want, a spectacular final. I hope you'll be joining us, and thank you if you have joined us here this afternoon. We've had Mason Quinn Mason.
Mason I know, my name flips quite well.
It does, doesn't it?
So it happens a lot.
Yeah.
I'm used to it now. I kind of go by both.
I've been talking for hours. I've lost my mind now. But thank you so much for joining me here today.
It's been a pleasure. Such a great round of boulders to commentate and watch. It's been entertaining.
Yeah, it's a good set, these ones. Sometimes having slightly more straightforward climbs is good, I think, because you just get to see the athletes doing what they do best without trying to figure all the stuff out.
And it's always a good change.
So Fanny Gibber's got a couple of minutes left. I just watched Stasha leave the stadium, so the finalists are starting to head out to go and get that rest, eat.
Although Stasha is unfortunately not one of the...
Oh, she's not making, sorry.
Not quite, no.
Where is she at now then?
She's in 9th position at the moment.
So Stasha's slipping down, so yeah, she's gone.
And unfortunately, Futaba no longer in that top 6 either. Jesse's got a bit of a nail biter here. Natalia has the ability to knock her out of the final if she gets the zone or top on this last boulder.
Fanny Gibber's got 2 minutes 18. Patches down, comes up with the left. You can see that thumb red with blood. She's pressing it in. And then we'll finally get to release it. There it goes.
Bearing down so hard on these little holds. Getting that foot out first seems like a really good method if you have the flexibility, which she definitely does.
Yeah, she had to open her hip in a really odd movement in order to get that done.
And there she goes for the finish.
Fanny Gibber finishes strong with a top on women's 4.
Always nice to finish your round with the top. Unfortunately, it won't be enough for her to make finals, but puts her in 9th place. She really needed a zone on that 3rd boulder, but wasn't quite able to do it.
Well, she smiles as she leaves. It is progress for her. She'll be happy with that. Says goodbye. She'll be watching from the audience here tonight.
She seems happy, but I feel like she might know that that wasn't quite enough. I think it was clear that this round required a lot of tops.
Oh, there you can see all the tops. Boulder 3 proving the problem child. Only zones for most people. Natalya Grossman, of course, got it done. Miho Nanaka got it done. There's a few others. But yeah, great set of boulders here. And Miho Nanaka obviously is sitting pretty, but it's Jessica Pilch who could be in a bit of trouble here, because we are expecting Natalia to jump up into that top 6.
Yeah, if Natalia gets the zone on this boulder, she will be bumping Jessie out of the final. I wonder if Natalia will be looking to continue her no-fall streak here. I don't know if that's a thought that she would have on her mind, but...
It's one of those things when you watch, to us it's just like, oh, she's on a streak, and I doubt she's even thought about it, you know, she's just carrying on.
I'm sure she has, but I'm sure she's at least trying not to think about it.
Yeah. It will be good. We'll see a no-fall comp. To my recollection, I don't think I've ever seen one. We're calling this a bit earlier, aren't we? But it would be a good outside bet if she could get that done.
It would be very exciting. Although it's always, we talk about, it's always best to climb rather than climbing not to fall, because that's when you see athletes get a bit tense and tend to hesitate more. It's really just best if you let yourself loose and just go and try to find your flow on all the boulders.
Well, we're just pausing again as the clock ticks down. You can hear it in the background, signaling the end of the round. There she is, running on, Natalya Grossman.
Getting all the love from the crowd, the only athlete on the wall.
Well, this is it.
Coming to the end of our semifinal here.
Yeah, she looks up. 3 out of 3. This kind of a boulder, is it Natalia's thing?
I think she's really good at figuring things out on the wall, which this boulder definitely requires. And what makes Natalia so good is that I wouldn't ever really say that one boulder suits her particularly well over a different boulder. She's super well-rounded, so I have faith in her for sure. Although this first section has been very tricky for a lot of athletes to figure out. Just a super high foot.
Yeah, it does look awkward. I've seen Natalia lift her foot up and place it on a hold. But now she's stood up and strong.
Getting that handcuff in position, and making that corner transition really well.
Yeah, then she'll unwind and
Creeping out to that hold.
gets the thumb in there. That's the better position. I mean, look, the fact that Natalia is making this look like a battle makes you realize how hard this climb is.
This climb is definitely uncomfortable. I don't think you're ever really finding a moment to breathe, except for maybe right here, and then it's straight back into a battle once you enter this corner again.
Make sure her right toe is on the correct bit of that hold before going upwards. Natalia, one move away, crosses through, needs to match for the perfect semi-final. Watch that right hand. She's looking at, oh, goes up with the right.
Wow. There she goes. Natalia continuing her no-fall streak. 9 out of 9 boulders flashed so far in this competition. So impressive by her. And now the athletes have a long 7-hour break before the finals begins at 8 p.m. this evening.
Yes, and we will be back for that finals tonight. Women's only tonight. Men's semi-final and final will take place tomorrow. That's how the split is working this weekend. We'll just get confirmation of our top 6, and here we go. So Natalya Grossman leading the way, Miho Nanaka, Hannah Moyle, Sarika Okawachi, Jelu Lau, and Anon Matsufuji are our top 6. And that is a top 6 I wouldn't have necessarily predicted going into this.
Yeah, we have 3 of these athletes in their first semifinal this season, and now their first final as well. And actually 4 of these athletes are in their first final ever this season. Miho and Natalia being some of the more well-known names. But it'll be a very exciting show tonight. All these athletes are clearly very, very strong, and it's always fun to have fresh faces on the final stage.
And we're looking now at who might have missed out. Camila Moroney probably would have hoped for a slightly better round. Cheon So couldn't build on the progress she made in Salt Lake. Disappointment for her. Holly Toothill coming in down the bottom. Started well, but couldn't quite find the momentum throughout. And Petra Klingler enjoyed herself out there, but she'll be left in 15th place. So some big names out at the top as our crowd start to filter out of the stadium. There's an exciting comp, a good one to watch. I've been joined by Quinn Mason in the commentary box, part of Team USA, and I'm sure you'll now go and hang out with some of your teammates and be watching the final tonight?
Yes, I'm super excited to watch the show. Love to cheer on a teammate in the final. Always makes it just a bit more exciting.
Right, we'll be back tonight. Thank you for watching this IFSC Brixen Boulder World Cup. We'll be back with all the action from the women's finals later on this evening.